Chapter 619. Miracle City and the Alliance members all came out to celebrate. The various city lords even sent over precious gifts. Because of this, Chu Tian became the center of attention when he came back. He was busy socializing and couldn't leave. It seemed like being too popular was also a problem. At this time, Meng Qinggu sent a message telling Chu Tian to return to the castle. Chu Tian finally found an excuse to leave. The young miss was looking for him, so he couldn't neglect her. Chu Tian sent everyone away and immediately teleported back to the castle. "Young miss, quickly come over. See what good things I've brought for you." Chu Tian took out a storage bag. "This is a divine sense crystal. It will allow your divine sense to reach the mind's lamp realm. These immortal herbs will definitely help you and Yingying reach the heaven domain realm." Also, Chu Tian only said half of what he wanted to say. He felt that something was wrong. The young miss sat there without moving with a long face. Vivian had a strange expression as she stood on the side. Chu Tian's heart was filled with doubt. What was going on? Could it be that the young miss was angry? This doesn't make sense. I, Chu Tian, have always been respectful to the young miss, only lacking my body. I shouldn't have offended her. The young miss' intelligent eyes fiercely stared at him. "What did you say you went to do this time?" Chu Tian was confused. "Everyone knows that I broke through on the moon." Meng Qinggu angrily slapped the table. Lancelot came back and told Vivian everything. "Vivian has already told me everything. Do you think I don't know what you did up there?" Vivian stood on the side with a bitter little face. She never thought that Meng Qinggu would be this angry. Bad, bad. Chu Tian gave an awkward cough. "Vivian, come here." "Big brother Chu Tian, I'm sorry, I didn't deliberately come to complain." Vivian revealed a nervous expression, but then she firmly said, "But this matter is your fault. Even if you punish me and scold me, I still have to say it." What was going on? How could I bear to punish you? "These are all gifts I brought back from the moon god's ruins. Take them back first. I want to have a good talk with the young Mississippi." Vivian heaved a sigh of relief. "Yes, thank you, big brother." After Vivian left, Chu Tian pulled a long face and personally poured tea for eldest Mississippi. "Eldest miss, don't be angry. Aren't you back in one piece? You've gone too far this time. The moon god's ruins can't be lost on the moon. We'll explore it sooner or later, but it'll be ours sooner or later. You're being so rash. If something happens, what should we do?" Meng Qinggu severely condemned Chu Tian's actions. "Don't forget, you and Yingying's wedding is about to take place. All right. Don't do it again." Chu Tian very sincerely accepted the young miss' criticism and did a deep self-reflection, but it was unknown if he would repent. Chu Tian saw that the young miss' anger had dissipated a bit, so he immediately changed the topic and said, "Have you sent away the rulers?" Meng Qinggu knew that Chu Tian was changing the topic, but this was an important matter, so she could only honestly say, "I've already arranged the transport towers, logistics, communication, and etc. The rulers have already returned to their respective places and the transport towers will open soon. In around half a year, we'll be able to build a transport network that covers the entire continent." Chu Tian's eyes lit up. That fast? The day Miracle City dominates the continent isn't far. There was no need to say the transport towers. This thing could save people a lot of time and energy. It could allow people from various countries to go to places they couldn't go before, like outer space or the underground world. It had a lot of value and significance in developing the world and developing diplomatic relations. Meng Qinggu had written a report. With Miracle City as the center, the transport towers were mainly distributed in the 143 cities and special areas of the Forest Alliance. There were 102 in the Kingdom Alliance, mainly in the various imperial cities and main cities. Miracle City had a total of 245 transport towers, being produced around 50,000 times per day. Even if Miracle City earned 10 source stones per transport, Miracle City's daily income would reach 500,000 source stones. In fact, The profit from the transport towers wasn't just 10 source stones. According to the area, the price was different, but the average was several times that. Meng Qinggu was prepared to increase the number of transport towers and increase the penetration rate of the transport towers. In the future, with just the income from the transport towers, Miracle City would become the richest city in the Forest of Chaos and even the continent. The importance of the space warehouse did not lose to the transport towers at all. The banks and shopping centers all relied on the space warehouse technology. The value of the large banks in the Forest of Chaos was recognized and the limitless potential of the Miracle shopping centers was clear to all. In the future, the space warehouse would be built and Miracle City would rent out large amounts of the space warehouse. The cost of building the space warehouse was low, but the benefits were very shocking. When the transport towers and space warehouses covered the continent. That would be the day Miracle City dominated the continent. Meng Qinggu didn't let this go to her head. Don't be happy too early, we will still face challenges from all sides. At least these empire-level powers won't allow a power that can surpass them or even control them to be born. This was indeed a very large problem. Chu Tian drank a cup of tea and asked, "Does the young miss have a way to deal with this?" "We will still focus on appeasing them in the beginning. As long as we give them enough benefits, we will be able to win them over, but in the end, we still need to be strong." Meng Qinggu paused before saying, "The reason I called you over today is because there are several large projects that you need to personally look over." Chu Tian was stunned. "What is it?" Meng Qinggu replied, "If Miracle City wants to truly dominate the continent, just relying on technology isn't enough, we need to strengthen our military. I have a plan and the initial investment is around 2 billion source stones." 2 billion source stones. Chu Tian was scared out of his wits. Miracle Commerce indeed had a large amount of wealth, but there were too many places that needed funds, so they only had around 100 million source stones. If they gathered all the income from the various places, it would be around 200 million source stones. Any more and it would affect the Yun sect and the other departments. With Miracle Commerce's current financial situation, they couldn't take out 2 billion at all. "I'm prepared to invest 200 million first and add another 200 million every month." Meng Qinggu wrote down the details of the plan and gave it to Chu Tian. This includes the construction of the large mech suit army, the construction of the large warships and military factories, the construction of the floating castles, and the construction of the various weapon systems. 2 billion source stones sounds like a lot, but it can only complete the beginning. Miracle City didn't have a solid foundation and didn't have a strong background. If they wanted to catch up to the empire-level powers, they could only rely on technology. Meng Qinggu choosing to wildly increase their military wasn't wrong, but from Meng Qinggu's plan, this amount of money was far from enough. Not to mention anything else, Miracle Commerce would need to spend at least 100 million source stones to build a large warship factory. Miracle Commerce would need to build at least 5 factories in the beginning. Other than that, each normal large warship would cost between 1 to 2 million. If Miracle City wanted to fight against the hidden power of the empire-level powers, they needed at least 400-500 large fleets. This was impossible without a strong enough financial power. Other than that, Meng Qinggu planned to build large amounts of defensive weapons in various places, like wildly digging out missile silos or deploying laser cannons in the sky. These all required large amounts of resources and these resources had to be exchanged for source stones. Chu Tian carefully looked over the plan and nodded, "Isn't it just 1 billion? Go do it. If you don't have enough source stones, you can go to the large source stone banks to take a loan. I believe this investment is worth it." Meng Qinggu obtained Chu Tian's confirmation and her heart filled with confidence. "Other than that, I still have something I'm preparing." Meng Qinggu gave Chu Tian another plan. "I think the alliance is a temporary measure, we will take another step sooner or later." Chu Tian opened the plan. Several large words appeared, "Country Creation Plan." Chu Tian was shocked by Meng Qinggu's boldness. "You want to create a country? This isn't a joke. Our influence includes the spirit beasts, the elves, the sea race, and over 100 other races. The internal power is also very complicated. There has never been a country like this on the continent before. We don't need to create a centralized country and we don't need to elect an emperor. My idea is to combine all the different powers to form a giant federation while the alliance isn't strong enough. Meng Qinggu looked at Chu Tian and said, our federated country still has its own political and military power, but compared to the loose alliance, we need to elect a leader who can directly order the people to be the federation president. Meng Qinggu was not satisfied with the current situation of the alliance. Chu Tian's idea of creating an alliance wasn't bad, but an alliance was just an alliance. Everyone would work together if there was a profit to be made and they would all be on the same level. It was a bit too loose. Even if Miracle City had a high status, they couldn't directly order the people, which greatly affected the overall efficiency. Because of this, Meng Qinggu wanted to use the alliance as a foundation to create a federal country. She would elect a president and have the president lead the entire federation. There was no need to say. If this plan could be implemented. The only person qualified to be the president of the federation was Chu Tian. Chapter 620. Meng Qinggu's federation plan was in line with Miracle City's benefits. In the long run, it was in line with the group's benefits. But the federation wasn't that easy to form. The various large powers would have a psychological struggle because once the federation was formed, it meant that Miracle City's position would rise again. Chu Tian would go from a partner to a leader that could directly manage things. This was something that people couldn't accept. Who liked being controlled? Who liked having someone on the same level as them appear in their territory? Who would like to have their own clan's matters affected by an outsider? Whether it was the proud dragon lord, the old-fashioned elves, or the spirit beasts, giants, or the sea race, even if they weren't the top powers on the continent, at least they had the final say in their territories. Giving a portion of their authority to the president was not a decision that could be casually made. Even if Lancelot agreed, would the Eternal Forest Elves agree? But the young miss already had this thought. Then the young miss must have a certain amount of confidence in her heart. The young miss was different from Chu Tian. She had always been cautious and would never mess around. I believe in the young miss ability and I definitely believe in the young miss. Chu Tian was shocked by the young miss ambition, but he didn't even think about the young miss choice before agreeing. Just do it. No matter what happens, I'll be behind you. Meng Qinggu rolled her eyes at him and said, with the current miracle commerce, as long as you don't cause trouble, you'll be helping us greatly. Chu Tian was a bit depressed. Look at what she's saying. All right. Chu Tian seemed like he had made a decision. Since it is the young miss orders, Chu Tian will definitely follow it to the end. In the end, Chu Tian really listened to the young miss. In the future, he wouldn't go anywhere, staying in Miracle City for a while. He organized the materials in Miracle Commerce's inventory and gathered the materials from the moon god's ruins. These herbs were all very precious. If other alchemists from the mainland were to refine them, it would be a waste of God's gifts. If Chu Tian were to personally refine them, the effects would at least be doubled. Chu Tian's cultivation had already reached the Heaven Domain realm and the others in Miracle Commerce couldn't keep up. The only ones with higher cultivation were Vivian, Nangong Yun, and Chen Bingyu. Because of their high starting point or high talent, they had all reached the spirit transformation realm. The young miss, Meng Yingying, and the others, although they had high statuses, their innate talents were a bit lacking. Even if they spent a lot of resources, they couldn't compare to the others, so they all stopped at around the 5th true spirit layer. This was not a big problem. Miracle Commerce was rich and had plenty of resources. Could it be that they couldn't even nurture a few core members? If that was the case, then what was the use of establishing Miracle Commerce? Miracle City had enough materials and resources, as well as a master-level character like Chu Tian. During this period of time, other than refining pills, Chu Tian also made cultivation plans for everyone. With Chu Tian's immortal pills and cultivation plans, Vivian, Nangong Yun, Chen Bingyu, and the others should have hopes of reaching the Heaven Domain realm within half a year. Meng Yingying, Meng Qinggu, Feng Kaidai, and the others would need around a year. The continent was temporarily calm. The various countries were working on it like a raging fire. Several transport towers were built as soon as possible. Miracle City finally opened a transport tower to the Empire area. Other aspects, such as logistics and communications, were all in the midst of preparation. Miracle City began to divide the outer space mines. Not only did they provide transport towers for the various powers, they also prepared a transport ship that could pass through the astral wind layer to reach the outer space mines. Outside the outer space mines, the underground world was also being developed. The underground world was different from outer space. The continent's underground world was not completely connected. Miracle City only controlled the underground world of the Forest of Chaos. Actually, in other parts of the continent, there were all kinds of underground spaces, but these underground worlds were all independent and some were not even connected to the surface. Miracle City used their superiority in technology and Chu Tian's memories to develop the various regions of the continent's underground world. Miracle City would provide technical support and the various empires would provide military support, working together to develop the area. The Empire-level powers were not any less interested in the Miracle helmets than others. This was because the market for the Miracle spiritual helmets was too big. If each helmet could be sold for several dozen source stones, if they sold several tens of millions of helmets, wouldn't they be able to earn billions? They couldn't slack off in such a large market. With Miracle City's help, the intelligent factory was constructed. The various blueprints and technology were all in place and the materials needed were quickly transported over. These Empire-level powers were worried about the production lines, afraid that their Miracle helmets would lose to the others in terms of production. This matter was enough to make the rulers have no time to care about anything else. As for Miracle City's recent situation, naturally no one cared about it. Meng Qingguo seized this chance to gather large amounts of resources and source stones, starting to build military strength, especially the giant ship factory. Although Yingying had several warship production lines in her hands, these production lines were a bit too small. Each line could only produce one warship at a time and each warship needed over 3 weeks to get the materials out of the factory. In other words, a single production line could produce one warship in a month. With this kind of production, when would Miracle City be able to create a fleet? If Meng Qingguo wanted a true giant ship factory, production speed was the most basic requirement. She also needed to have the ability to make different kinds of warships and the factory itself needed the ability to upgrade itself, making even higher level warships in the future. While the rulers weren't paying attention this time, Meng Qingguo gathered a sea of resources, preparing to build 4 giant ship factories at once. One was the Moon Shipbuilding Factory, one was the Outer Space Shipbuilding Factory, one was the Overseas Island Shipbuilding Factory, and one was the Secret Shipbuilding Factory in the forest. The 4 shipbuilding factories were all located in different locations, all of which were quite secretive or inaccessible. The 4 factories were planned to be completed in half a year. They needed a total investment of 500 million source stones. Although Miracle City could be considered a large corporation on the continent, this kind of large project was a large burden to Miracle City who didn't have a deep background. Almost at the same time, Miracle City's Sky Castle and the Source Energy Weapon Defense System spread across the Alliance began to be built. The high-altitude laser cannons, the robot army, the mech suit army, all kinds of advanced weapons, and etc., each project was a bottomless pit. Meng Qingguo planned to invest 2 billion source stones first, but considering Miracle City's financial burden, she could only increase it every month, she couldn't invest it all at once. Chu Tian felt it was too little. Even 10 billion wouldn't be enough. 2 billion source stones couldn't complete this large project at all. At this time, Meng Qingguo was sitting in a white robe in a cultivation room. She had received Chu Tian's help and had broken through to the 6th true spirit layer 2 days ago, so she was currently stabilizing her realm. Meng Qingguo's speed was considered slow. Vivian was already in the peak 9th true spirit layer. Nangong Yun was a bit slower, but she wasn't far off. Even Meng Yingying had broken through to the 6th true spirit layer several days earlier than her elder sister. This was mainly because the young miss was too busy, so she didn't have much time to cultivate. Meng Qinggu slowly let out a sigh and she slowly opened her eyes. It's not bad. Chu Tian nodded in satisfaction. Your realm has already stabilized. Adapt to it for a bit before we continue to attack the next layer. Meng Qinggu stood up and said, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Now that the company's large project had just begun, they couldn't waste even a second. Chu Tian quickly called out to the young miss, what is the young miss in such a rush for? We still have things to do. Meng Qinggu was stunned, what things? Yingying, Vivian, Nangong, Big Sister Bing, Feng Kaidai, they've recently invested in a hotel and today is the opening day. Chu Tian said to Meng Qinggu, should we go take a look? Meng Qinggu was a bit confused, what's so special about a hotel? Do we need to go for this kind of thing? Chu Tian laughed, young miss is wrong, this hotel is not normal. What's not normal? This is the Space Hotel. Chu Tian continued to explain, they built a transport tower in the hotel and the hotel is connected to the most famous chefs of the Alliance through a logistics channel. In other words, in this hotel, guests can enjoy the freshest and most comprehensive specialties of the continent. Meng Qinggu found this a bit hard to believe, it's just a hotel, is there a need to invest this much? How come I didn't know that Yingying had done this kind of thing behind my back? This must have been your idea. Meng Yingying was the resource minister, only Meng Yingying had the ability to use the eyes of the star and spatial crystals to build a transport tower and a space warehouse without Meng Qinggu knowing. But Meng Yingying wouldn't hide it from Meng Qinggu, so this matter must have been instigated by Chu Tian. Chu Tian rolled his eyes, they saw that Miracle City's finances were a bit tight recently, so they wanted to give you a pleasant surprise out of goodwill. Don't look down on the spending power of the continent's rich. With this hotel appearing out of nowhere, I think it will be very profitable. Other than that, I've decided to officially release the miracle helmets in the hotel. This way, we can earn a large amount of money for the city. Miracle City had stored hundreds of thousands of helmets, but they couldn't use them. Now they could use this chance to release them. Meng Qinggu couldn't refute this. Chu Tian always had his own reasons for everything he said, but the hotel had been built and what was done could not be undone. Could Meng Qinggu order people to tear down the hotel? She could only follow Chu Tian to see what the most luxurious hotel on the continent looked like. Chapter 621. The Miracle Alliance's Spatial Royal Hotel, also known as the Miracle Royal Palace. This hotel was built in the Kingdom Alliance's territory. It was originally a large kingdom that spent 2 generations of kings, building a luxurious royal palace for over 100 years. Because of the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom's invasion, the kingdom had been destroyed for a period of time. Although they had successfully restored the kingdom had been plundered by the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom, so they didn't have the money to continue repairing it. After Meng Yingying learned of this matter, she felt that it was a pity that the royal palace was abandoned like this. She discussed it with Vivian and the others and they took out 1,000,000 source stones from their own pockets to buy the repaired royal palace. They also sent talented craftsmen from the Forest Alliance to quickly repair the royal palace. Now the royal palace had become the Miracle Space Hotel. This was the first hotel with the concept of space on the continent. The entire Miracle Royal Palace needed time to be repaired, but now that it was repaired, it was enough for them to open to the public. Today was the first day of business. All the famous people of the various countries were notified. Although they weren't forced to attend, the light from the transport tower never stopped. The kings and nobles of the various kingdoms, the Forest City lords and chiefs, the Western Sea tribe elders, as well as famous merchants and experts, as well as the Demon City lords of the underground world were all invited. The investment in the Miracle Royal Palace wasn't small. There was an independent transport tower here and an independent smart brain system. Around half of the attendants were robots, showing Miracle City's source energy technology. Chu Tian, elder sister. Meng Yingying and Vivian personally came in front of the two of them. Chu Tian looked around, it's very lively, ha, ha, ha. Of course it's lively. Nangong Yun's brows lit up as she said, who in our alliance wouldn't give us face? Not to mention, this is the continent's first spatial hotel, the highest level place, who doesn't want to experience it? I think most of the people here are from the empires. These fellows are stupid and have a lot of money, so we can slaughter them all. There was indeed a large proportion of people from the empires. Chu Tian found many old friends he hadn't seen in a long time among the alliance members, like the great summer king Dongfang Gan, Shen Fengho, the Golden Arrow Marquis, and others. There was also Miracle Commerce's Chen Bingyu, Feng Kaidai, Yun Yao, Yun Xiao, Dongfang Haoren, Gu Qianqiu, Yun Tianhe, and other old members. There was also Shadow, Atu, Meiji, Yin Spirit, and other new members. Apart from these internal members, there were even more unfamiliar faces. Chu Tian had never seen them before, but since they appeared here, they were definitely high-ranking members of Miracle Commerce. Greetings, Guild Master. Vice President. No matter where these high-level members of Miracle City went, they were all famous people, but they were very clear on who gave them this status. Especially when they saw the legendary Chu Tian, they were all very respectful. No need to be polite, everyone can sit. The Miracle Space Grand Hotel was built on the foundation of a large royal palace, so the space was very large. There were several hunting grounds, gardens, artificial lakes, artificial mountains, and etc. There were over 100 palaces, over 50 large banquet halls, 500 small and medium-sized banquet halls, and over 800 living rooms. The Grand Hotel was named Miracle City, so how could it be the same as a normal hotel? The walls, floor tiles, walls, and pillars of the banquet hall were all made of holographic screens. They were also equipped with the best sound equipment. Whether it was a meeting, a ceremony, a press conference, or just a banquet, the banquet hall could simulate any scene according to the requirements. The service of the palaces here was very comprehensive, with each palace having a fixed spiritual connection device. This device was actually a more powerful spiritual helmet, providing more functions and entertainment than a helmet. There was not a single common delicacy here, being a feast made of the best materials. The Flower Fairy's fairy wine, the Elven immortal tea, top-grade spirit beast and demonic beast meat, various precious medicines, and etc., made this the most luxurious place to spend money on the continent. Whether it was status or taste, this was the most suitable place among the countries of the continent. Therefore it wasn't hard to predict. In the future, all the emperors and powerful people would hold a banquet in the Miracle Royal Palace, which was the highest form of etiquette and the highest level of banquets. Meng Yingying and the others had found this business opportunity. There were many empires and kingdoms on the continent, and there were many families that had existed for tens of thousands of years. Even if these rich powers held a banquet here every year, it would still be a considerable amount of income. The transport array flashed. A peerless figure appeared. The surrounding people quickly bowed down when they saw this. Greetings to the Wind Moon Empress. Chu Tian was a bit surprised. Although there were quite a few people from the empires, even the Empress was disturbed. This was incredible. He walked over and cupped his hands. For the Wind Moon Empress to come out of her busy schedule, Chu Tian is honored. The Wind Moon Empress gave a tender laugh. The Miracle Royal Palace is a unique spatial hotel on the continent and is the most luxurious place on the continent. The Imperial City's transport tower has just been built, and although it's 1,000,000 miles away, it's still very close. How could this Empress not experience the beauty of it? Chu Tian waved his hand. I asked the Empress to take a seat. After the Wind Moon Empress came, the other emperors also came. When the transport array lit up again, the temperature in the hall dropped by quite a bit. When Chu Tian saw the person who came, his expression became a bit strange. Nether King. Chu Tian was a bit surprised. Your Majesty, the Nether King is also here to join in the fun. These words were a bit rude, but it wasn't an exaggeration. The Nether King was clearly an undead. They didn't need to eat at all. The Nether King coming to a hotel as an undead, how was this different from a eunuch visiting a brothel? The Nether King released a cold aura as he said to Chu Tian, I'm here to join in the fun, I'm mainly here to see you. Chu Tian was stunned by the Nether King's words. What? See me. The Nether King said, the Netherworld Sea has chosen 50 scholars over 8,000 years old. Perhaps they are unknown in the secular world, but their knowledge is not inferior to the continent's sages. Isn't Miracle City's Yun sect recruiting talents? These 50 undead sages, I think they will be of great help to Miracle City's research. Scholars over 8,000 years old. Even if they were stupid, they could still become peak sages after studying for several thousand years. This kind of person was rare even in the Netherworld Sea. The Nether King gave them all to Miracle City. This was truly a large move. But since the Nether King dared to give them to Miracle City, Chu Tian had no reason to refuse. The Nether King is supporting Miracle City's work this much. Chu Tian is filled with gratitude. With these undead sages in Miracle City, they will definitely be of great value. The Nether King was very satisfied with this reply. The banquet officially began. Chapter 622. The guests were already seated at this time. Friends and guests, welcome to the Miracle Royal Palace's grand opening. A very magnetic and beautiful voice came out and a beautiful blonde woman slowly appeared in the center of the hall. I am the host of this grand opening, Jean Luo. Everyone began to clap. The mermaid princess Jean Luo was very famous in the alliance. Jean Luo not only had the bloodline of the Deep Blue royal family, she was also the future successor of West Sea City and the Deep Blue Bank. Today, we have received the exclusive sponsorship of the Tree of Life Culture and Entertainment Company. The elves and the mermaids will perform for everyone. This is a rare chance, so let us enjoy it together. The light around them dimmed and the flat ground in the center suddenly began to rise, forming a stage. The surrounding environment began to change, creating a forest of colors. It gave people the illusion that they were not sitting in a hotel, but rather a beautiful and holy forest. This beautiful scene was taken from the Eternal Forest, allowing people who had never been to the Eternal Forest to feel the beauty of the Elven Forest. The entire hall was filled with the fragrance of all kinds of delicacies. The extremely luxurious banquet had already begun. A group of delicate and beautiful wood elves slowly walked onto the stage. They had long since rehearsed all kinds of performances, and were holding all kinds of musical instruments in their hands as they began to display their talents. A cheerful, melodious, and elegant chorus filled the air. This scene made the guests from all over the continent feel like they were in the Elven Forest, listening to the music of the elves and enjoying the best wine and food on the continent, as well as eating with several emperors in the banquet hall. No matter what era it was, this was an unimaginable enjoyment for them. This was not only a material and spiritual enjoyment, but also an enjoyment of one's status and status. Only the noblest people on the continent could gather here, and this kind of satisfaction could not be measured by material things. Chu Tian brought the Meng Qinggu sisters and several emperors to sit at a long and gorgeous dining table. They were facing the stage, which was the best place to watch the performance. The elves' performance was splendid. This made people feel dazzled. The elves' performance in music and art made everyone feel happy, which led to waves of warm applause. Everyone was infected by this kind of noble enjoyment. They couldn't help but think that if they didn't have the Miracle Commerce Transport Tower, they probably wouldn't be able to enjoy such treatment in their entire lives. Chu Tian drank a mouthful of the Flower Fairy Race's fairy wine. I remember that the life and culture commerce was made by the Tree of Life tribe's elven elders. It seems like it's doing quite well. Of course. Right now, the most popular records in the Alliance are basically produced by this Chamber of Commerce. In addition, the major movie theaters and music channels also account for half of the market. Meng Yingying was a bit reserved sitting with the emperors. She lowered her voice and said to Chu Tian, "Actually, Vivian and I invested in this Chamber of Commerce together. It's now the biggest giant in the entertainment industry. In the future, when we expand into other markets on the continent, there will be huge improvements." Chu Tian laughed. "You two are the major shareholders. No wonder things are going so smoothly." The Forest Alliance's business boom hadn't stopped and it was becoming more and more intense now. A portion of Miracle Commerce's income came from investments. Vivian used her status as the elven princess to invest in all the important businesses of the elves. For example, the Eternal Forest's Matrix Chamber of Commerce and the Tree of Life Tribe's Culture and Culture Commerce. These companies with large growth potential all had investments from high-level members of Miracle Commerce. After the elves finished their performance, everyone was still a bit unsatisfied. But it didn't matter, the merpeople's performance began. The surrounding Eternal Forest suddenly changed, turning into the beautiful Crystal Bay in the blink of an eye. This was the most beautiful place in the Forest of Chaos and even the Western Sea. A group of beautiful and noble merpeople swam out of the sea, appearing on the stage. The merpeople and elves were very artistic races. The elves were very talented, being proficient in carving, music, and etc. The merpeople specialized in singing. Therefore, when the merpeople's singing spread out, it immediately captured everyone's hearts. Chu Tian closed his eyes to carefully feel it. Who is the main singer? This was a very young mermaid girl, but her voice was very infectious, giving people a wonderful experience as if they were in a dream. She is a talent dug out by West Sea City, the popular mermaid singer Yu Gu. Meng Yingying seemed very satisfied that her company could cultivate this kind of outstanding singer. Yu Ji's value is very high now. For a concert, it would cost around 40-50,000 source stones. A person's appearance fee was around 40-50,000 source stones. This was something many small families and companies couldn't earn in their entire lives. Chu Tian was a bit surprised, but then he said with a smile, "You've spent quite a bit of capital today. Today is a free performance sponsored by Yu Gu and the company, alright." Meng Yingying rolled her eyes at Chu Tian. Yu Ji's appearance fee used to be around 40-50,000 source stones. I think it wouldn't be hard to double it after today. When the merpeople finished singing. Good, good. The Wind Moon Empress took the initiative to clap. I really like this mermaid's singing. After this banquet, we have to invite her to perform in the palace. The Heaven-Burning Emperor gave a carefree laugh. This emperor likes the elves' performances. The Heaven-Burning Empire's 9,000-year celebration is about to begin, so I'm prepared to invite them to perform. City Lord Chu Tian, what do you think? Chu Tian nodded. This is the honor of our artists. That little girl Yingying had really hit the mark. There were quite a few important people here. There were several emperors like this. Although Miracle City's earning power was slowly catching up to the Empire's standards, how many years was Miracle City's history? The empires had thousands of years of history, so even if they saved 1-200 million source stones each year, Miracle City couldn't even imagine their background. These rich fellows who loved face and money, how could they be stingy with source stones? If Yu Gu was chosen by some great emperor and invited to perform, she would receive several times the appearance fee. Otherwise, how could she display the capability and strength of the empire? These people were invited by the great emperor to perform, and after she returned, her value would rise again. Not only would the sales of her albums and artworks increase, but other kingdoms and great families would also pay a lot of money to invite her to perform. It was important to show one's face, especially on such an occasion. This was the main purpose of this performance planning. That was the end of today's performance. Everyone felt very satisfied. The host Jean Luo came forward with a microphone. Now we will begin the second segment, which is also an important segment that everyone is paying attention to. Miracle Commerce's first batch of spiritual helmets has been prepared, and since the various countries of the continent are here today, Miracle Commerce will use this as a miracle to sell it to the entire continent. The miracle helmet was officially announced. Everyone was overjoyed. Chapter 623. This was truly exciting news. Ever since the Miracle Peak appeared, the entire world was looking forward to the miracle helmets appearing on the market. However, although the various helmets had already started mass production, it would still take some time for it to reach a certain scale. They would let everyone have a taste of it this time. The several thousand guests were all top characters of various countries. Not only did they have money and power, they also had quite a bit of influence. Now that they were selling it, it would be much easier to sell it on the continent in the future. The Miracle Royal Palace's servers began to move out and Miracle City's commemorative helmets were placed in everyone's hands. Everyone coming to support the Miracle Royal Palace, Miracle City is very honored. Although there is a limited number of spiritual helmets, we will take out a portion and give it to everyone as a souvenir. The item in everyone's hands is the official Miracle Spiritual Helmet. Our Miracle helmets have all kinds of functions. Other than allowing you to enter the beautiful Miracle continent filled with fantasies, you can also use it for shopping, finance, communication, and etc., but it is not just limited to that. Jean Luo introduced the helmet's functions and prospects. As everyone knows, the Miracle Commerce Research Institute's Yun Sect is the most innovative organization on the continent. A large portion of Miracle Commerce's revenue is invested in research. The Yun Sect Research Institute is spread all over the continent, with a total of 180,000 researchers. If you add in the logistics department, it is hard to imagine how many people there are on the continent. Whether it is in scale or investment, it is hard to find an opponent on the continent. Everyone nodded when they heard this. It was fine if it was in other areas. They couldn't help but be convinced by this research. Miracle Commerce's research investments were over 100 million source stones, and from the current situation, it would increase by over 50% every month. Not to mention the salaries of over 100,000 researchers, it was not something a normal power could afford. Not to mention the fact that there were many materials used. What was the difference between this kind of large and powerful research institute and a monster that ate money? There was a natural risk in investing in research because a product had to go from research to production. It would take a long time to become a product. If any part of this process went wrong, the entire investment would go down the drain. Miracle Commerce had many businesses and a large amount of revenue, but the net profit was not high. The main reason for this was because they invested too much in research. However, the existence of the Yun sect was very important to Miracle Commerce and it was indispensable to Miracle Commerce. Under the command of the highest person in charge of the Yun sect, Meng Qingguo, this large structure operated with the highest efficiency. There were over 100 departments and over 1,000 large and small projects, all of which had been organized by Meng Qingguo. There were results every day and each one could be sold for 10 or even 100 times in the future. The Yun sect was currently investing a lot. The rewards would be even greater in the future. Spiritual products have already become one of the most important products of Miracle Commerce. Jean Luo continued to say, under the orders of our Vice Chairman and Vice City Lord Meng Qingguo, the Spiritual Network Department has been established and I am in charge of the Spiritual Network Department. Now the department has recruited 5,000 spiritual domain experts from all over the continent, preparing to come to Miracle City's spiritual center to provide us with strong support and protection. In the future, there will be even more functions being developed. Everyone at the scene applauded. The mental domain was a very large domain. The spiritual network was only one of the important areas. Just building a spiritual network was this large, it could be seen how much hope and expectation Miracle Commerce had for the Miracle Helmets. With this many spiritual engineers working hard to build it, the spiritual helmets would have more and more functions and uses in the future. Some people couldn't help asking questions. Then when will the helmets be sold? That's right. What is the selling price? Jean Luo answered everyone's questions. There are helmet manufacturing centers in the various regions of the continent and according to the progress of different regions, the time and quantity of the helmets will be different. Everyone can pay attention to the situation in your respective regions. But in order to warm up the Miracle helmets, Miracle Commerce will first sell 400 to 500,000 helmets after the conference ends. They will be auctioned off to the Miracle Shopping Center. If everyone wants to try it, you can use the helmet in your hand or your cell phone to check it out. You can also go to our Miracle Shopping Center stores in various regions. Everyone revealed looks of joy, but they were also very depressed. Only 400 to 500,000 helmets? There were several 100 billion people on the continent, this was a bit too little. Now that they were auctioned off to the Miracle Shopping Center, the price would be very terrifying. There was no lack of rich people in this world. Although they could buy helmets in various regions in a few days, they didn't hesitate to spend a lot of money just to try it out a few days earlier. There were people testing the helmets and someone quickly found a problem. Why can't we enter the Miracle Continent? When will this place be opened? This is the third matter Miracle Commerce wants to announce. Jean Luo already guessed that someone would ask this. In 15 days, our respected Alliance Chairman, Miracle City Lord, Miracle Commerce's Chairman, Sir Chu Tian, and one of Miracle Commerce's co-founders, Sir Meng Yingying, will hold their wedding at the beautiful Crystal Bay on the west coast. The Miracle Continent will be officially opened on this day, so let us all congratulate City Lord Chu Tian. It would open in 15 days. Everyone revealed looks of pleasant surprise. As for the matter of Chu Tian and Meng Yingying holding their wedding on the west coast, everyone was paying close attention to it. Of course, people weren't paying attention to the wedding itself, rather they were using the wedding as a chance to curry favor with Chu Tian. Now that Miracle Commerce's influence on the continent was growing, it wasn't wrong to have a good relationship with Miracle Commerce. Jean Luo said everything she needed to announce. Everyone continued to eat and drink. This luxurious banquet lasted for several hours before it gradually came to an end. The Wind Moon Empress and the other large characters wanted to stay in the Miracle Royal Palace for a few days, which Miracle Commerce couldn't ask for. The prices here were terrifyingly high, so these large characters would earn large amounts of source stones just by staying for a few days. Meng Yingying gave the day's business to Chu Tian. Today's average consumption is 8,000 source stones and there are over 6,000 people participating. The total revenue is over 50 million source stones and after deducting the cost, we have earned over 30 million source stones. Earning 30 million in a day. Meng Qinggu was also shocked when she heard this number. Average consumption of 8,000 source stones. The prices here were a bit too high. What concept was 8,000 source stones? Anyway, for some small and medium-sized families in small countries, even if they sold all their assets, it wouldn't be enough for these people to come to the Miracle Royal Palace for a meal. This also showed just how powerful these fellows' spending power was. Miracle City had truly made a large profit by establishing this hotel. This was just the beginning. Vivian teleported over. Big brother Chu Tian, come quickly. The Miracle Shopping Center is preparing to start selling the Miracle helmets. This is the first time the Miracle helmets are being sold in large quantities, we can't miss this good chance. Alright, Yingying, let's go take a look. Chu Tian led Yingying to the Smart Brain Center of the castle. The Miracle Shopping Center's super smart brain was placed here. Meng Qinggu, Jean Luo, and the other important members had all been waiting here for a long time. Chu Tian asked, how are our sales? We can't auction off the 400,000 helmets one by one. Of course not, we will auction off the helmets one by one. The 400,000 helmets will be sold at the Miracle Shopping Center for around 3 days. The starting price of the helmets will be in source stones and buyers from all over the continent can bid during this time. If the bid is in the top 400,000, the corresponding source stones on their accounts will be locked. When they are pushed out of the rankings by other bidders, the locked source stones will be unlocked. They can choose to give up or they can choose to continue bidding. So it was like this. During Miracle City's auction period, every Miracle Shopping Center store, cell phones, and other devices could be auctioned off. People from all over the continent could bid through the Miracle Shopping Center and when the auction ended, the top 400,000 people would be able to buy the helmets. This was an efficient and open method. Each person could only buy one helmet at a time. This would prevent some dealers with ulterior motives from buying the helmets on a large scale and selling them at a high price. Wouldn't 3 days be too short? Nangong Yun was a bit uncertain. What if there aren't that many people bidding? Impossible, the Miracle Royal Palace has several thousand large characters, they won't let go of this chance. They will definitely pull in the people from their respective powers. Next, we will spread the news through various channels, so it won't take a day for the news to spread. There is already a lot of attention. What were they waiting for? Let's directly begin. Meng Qinggu asked the smart brain, have all the data and connections been prepared? The Miracle Shopping Center's super smart brain replied, reporting to the Vice City Lord, "Everything has been prepared." Meng Qinggu said with a nod, "Then let's begin." Chapter 624. The Miracle Shopping Center was already the largest chain store on the continent, and it was also an era-defining online shopping method, making the Miracle Shopping Center welcomed by the masses as it expanded on the continent. Now basically in any city that had a communication signal, people could use the Miracle Shopping Center to shop. They could use their cell phones or radios to connect to the Miracle Shopping Center platform, obtaining the latest information on the Miracle Shopping Center. Of course, the amount of information a cell phone could receive was limited. If they didn't feel satisfied or had a more detailed request, they could go to the Miracle Shopping Center's physical stores. The Miracle Shopping Center's physical stores already covered over 2,000 cities. These places had the normal function of selling goods, so they could be considered shopping malls with perfect experience, good service, and a full range of goods. At the same time, they also had the Miracle Shopping Center's platform, allowing people to buy everything on the continent without leaving their homes. If they liked something, they just needed to pay and Miracle Commerce would send it to the city they wanted. However, although the Miracle Shopping Center already covered over 5 billion people, because people's new shopping habits were still slowly being developed, it didn't even reach 2% of the 5 billion people. But even so, the monthly transaction volume had exceeded 1 or 2 billion, and it was still increasing month by month. Miracle Commerce encouraged more goods to enter the platform, so naturally they had to give profits to the merchants. But even after deducting the profits and other costs, the Miracle Shopping Center could still make several hundred million in profit. Now it was the main source of income for Miracle Commerce and Miracle City, as well as the one with the most potential. Meng Qinggu invested half of the Miracle Shopping Center's profits back into the Miracle Shopping Center's development. This money was used to increase the Miracle Shopping Center's staff, increase the number of smart brains in the Miracle Shopping Center, increase the technology, and etc. The Miracle Shopping Center was like a snowball that kept getting bigger and bigger. The expansion of the Miracle Shopping Center did not just increase Miracle Commerce's business potential, it also greatly increased Miracle Commerce's economic and financial development. Source stones were the common currency of the continent. But the value of source stones was too high, so it wasn't suitable for daily shopping. Each country had their own currency, and the Miracle Shopping Center would become a unified trading platform, controlling the exchange rate of each country's currency. In the future, the citizens of each country would open their own bank accounts, and even if they brought it to other countries to spend, they wouldn't need to exchange it for source stones. Miracle Commerce could use the Miracle Shopping Center and banks to release a new currency in the future, using this currency to rule over most small and medium countries. Now the citizens of the continent were stirred, and the doorsteps of each Miracle Shopping Center were almost broken. "He's here. He's here. The Miracle Helmet has been released." A wave of cheers came from the Miracle Shopping Center of a small country's main city. Miracle City put the 450,000 spiritual helmets on the shelves at a base price of 20 source stones and began to auction them. 20 primary stones? This price is too expensive. When the normal people saw the base price of the Miracle Helmet, they all shook their heads and sighed. This price was nothing to some big empires, but in a small country, unless one was a big noble, it was impossible to have the financial resources to buy a helmet. It would be difficult for an ordinary person to earn such a sum in their lifetime. According to the previous Southern Xia currency exchange rate, 20 source stones was equivalent to 20 million Southern Xia gold coins. This was enough to buy a mansion in the imperial city of Southern Xia and keep 8-10 concubines. What do you know? The rarer something is, the greater its value. The entire continent is fighting over the Miracle Helmet. Is the price high? I think you've underestimated him. This cost was not even worth mentioning in large countries or empires. To experience the spiritual helmet faster, what did a bit more source stones count for? The bidding has begun. Although they couldn't buy it, it didn't stop everyone from watching. The 400,000 Miracle Helmets had just been released, and from the special display screen, there were over 100,000 bids. Moreover, this number was still growing at a terrifying rate, quickly reaching 200,000, 300,000, 500,000. Everyone was dumbfounded. Could it be that there were this many people on the continent waiting for the miracle helmet to appear? Just how popular and crazy was this miracle helmet? Quickly look at first place. When everyone saw the first price, the air seemed to stop moving and the entire shopping center seemed to freeze. There was only the sound of people swallowing their saliva. 20,000. 20,000 source stones. This buyer had directly increased the base price by 1,000 times. This was clearly too lazy to join in the bidding, directly throwing several tens of thousands of source stones and waiting for the helmet to arrive. What was called a rich person? This was called a rich person. This city's monthly tax revenue didn't even reach 20,000 source stones. The mysterious buyer didn't even take a look before throwing out 20,000 source stones. This was definitely not an isolated case. Because after a few minutes, several more high bids appeared. 30,000, 20,000, 40,000, 50,000, these bidders casually raised the price by several thousand times. These fellows definitely didn't even look at the bidding list, directly throwing in several tens of thousands of source stones with their eyes closed. Since they wanted the helmet, they didn't care about 10,000 or 20,000. People cheered again and again. The price of the helmet became higher and higher. There was a noise coming from the crowd at this time, move, move. Everyone was a bit stunned because this person was none other than the city's young city lord. They saw the young city lord holding an elven bank card as he walked in with an anxious expression. Was the young city lord prepared to buy the helmet? The crowd parted to form a path. The young city lord first looked at the bidding list and found that the lowest price was above 36 source stones. The rules set by Miracle Commerce was that everyone could bid, and the higher the bid, the higher the ranking. In 3 days, the highest 40 spots would be taken. If there was a situation where the bids were the same, the one who bid first would be ranked first and the helmet would be given out according to the ranking. Therefore, bidding early had the advantage of the morning paper and bidding late had the advantage of the evening paper. The competition is very big. The young city lord looked at the constantly refreshing bidding list. There were at least several million people on the continent competing for the miracle spiritual helmet, and this number was still increasing. The young city lord hesitated. At this time, several luxurious carriages stopped in the city and several rich-looking people joined in. Young city lord, why aren't you bidding yet? A citizen couldn't help saying, if you don't bid now, it'll be too late. The young city lord's forehead was covered in sweat as he stared at the screen. Although the bids weren't too high right now, with this competitive trend, it would quickly break 3 digits. 125 source stones. The young city lord thought of this and immediately gave out this number. The surrounding people all cried out in shock. It was just buying a helmet, was there a need to give out such a high price? Don't think that the price isn't good right now, I think it will increase by a large amount before long. The young city lord said in a reasonable voice, instead of fighting with the low price, it's better to take the high ground first. This way, even if someone else bids the same price as me, because I bid first, I can bid first. The price of the helmet kept increasing. The entire bidding process lasted for 3 days. There were many things that happened in these 3 days that were enough to make the news. For example, there were some people from large countries, especially rich people from empires. Because they didn't have the Miracle Shopping Center's channels, they specially went to a small country to upgrade their bank cards. For example, there was a fellow from the continent who used a giant dragon bank card and directly transferred 1 million source stones, instantly shocking the entire continent. Later it was said that this person came from the dragon territory and wanted to use this chance to advertise their giant dragon bank. In short, the bidding for the miracle helmets was crazy for 3 days. Letting the people of the continent know how rich the rich were and letting the people of the continent see just how rich the rich were. A spiritual helmet with a base price of 20 source stones actually spent 1 million source stones to take first place. No matter what their goal was, this 1 million source stones would go into Miracle Commerce's pockets. Just to show off, they actually did this kind of thing, it really was incredible. Of course, this was a minority in the end. Most people were more rational. When the bidding ended, the lowest price was 225 source stones, which was around 10 times the price. This was a relatively reasonable price range. Ha, ha, ha. I bought it, I bought it. The young city lord found that he was really lucky, buying it at the lowest price. Because he bid earlier, according to the Miracle Shopping Center's rules, although there were tens of thousands of people who bid the same price as him, they were all ranked below the young city lord, so most of them didn't have a bounty. It's a profit. It's a profit. The young city lord was wild with joy. There were many areas on the continent, especially the empires, because they didn't have transport arrays or shopping centers, they couldn't buy the miracle helmets even if they had money. If the young city lord sold the helmet now, it wouldn't be hard for him to earn 10 times the price. He could just buy it the next time the helmet went on sale. No matter what. The young city lord was going to become famous in this city. But many people were concerned about a question. How much did Miracle Commerce earn in this auction? Chapter 625. All of Miracle Commerce was frantically busy. This auction ranking method only took a short 3 days. Not only did it bring a large return, it also became a hot topic, allowing the entire continent to discuss this matter. If this was a marketing plan for the miracle helmets, the planner would definitely give it full marks. The most important thing was that this was not just marketing, it was also a real profit. On the day that Miracle Commerce's auction ended, all the Miracle Commerce members gathered in the conference room. Each person was quietly waiting and each person had a look of anticipation on their faces. The moment the auction ended, the shopping center's super smart brain displayed a series of data on the screen. In just a short 3 days, there were a total of 12,130,000 people bidding for the helmet. There were a total of 49,600,000 bids, with the highest price being 1 million source stones, over 100,000 source stones, and the lowest price being 225 source stones. Finally, a large number appeared on the screen. This data showed the large disparity in wealth on the continent. The rich people could throw away millions as easily as a single copper coin, while the poor people kept trying their luck. The total sales were 408,310,000 source stones. In total, each helmet was sold for around 930 source stones. When this data came out, everyone applauded. Not only did this bring Miracle Commerce a large amount of income, it also showed the Miracle Spiritual Helmet's strong charm and future prospects. 400 million, 400 million. Is there a mistake? After the Miracle Helmet's research and development department learned of the sales, they were all stunned by this data because they knew that the Miracle Helmet's production cost was very low. 400,000 Miracle Spiritual Helmets, the materials didn't exceed 2 million. 2 million worth of materials turned into a product worth 400 million, just the profit alone couldn't be described. This was simply turning stone into gold. Not to mention that Miracle Commerce had gathered such a large amount of income, instantly alleviating their tight financial situation. Everyone has done very beautifully this time. Chu Tian stood up and applauded. Not only have we opened the most luxurious restaurant on the continent, we have also used this chance to hype up the helmets, bringing a large amount of income to Miracle City. I've decided to take out 1/10 of this profit as a reward for everyone. 1/10 was 40 million source stones. This was a very generous reward. From the frontline workers like Meng Yingying and Jean Luo to the helmet's researchers and shop employees, all of them were given a huge reward. To these employees, this was equivalent to 5 to 8 years' worth of salary. Meng Qinggu had some objections to Chu Tian giving out large bonuses. After all, Miracle City still needed large amounts of funds. This bonus was a bit too much, but she knew what kind of person Chu Tian was. Since this money was a pleasant surprise, it didn't matter if he gave out a bit more. We need to publicize the brilliant results that we have achieved. Earning 400 million in 3 days is a very good topic to hype up. We can use it to further increase the influence of the helmet. At the same time, we can give other partners confidence and show them the potential of the helmet. Meng Qinggu smiled at this point. Seeing that the sales of the helmets are so good, I'm afraid the empires are all green with envy. Even if they don't eat or drink, they will still make the helmets. The more popular the helmets were, the more significant this was to Miracle City. Reporting to Sir City Lord. At this time, the super smart brain in charge of managing Miracle City, Zero, said, Sir City Lord, a group of undead have come from the Netherworld Sea's transport tower. They say they are scholars sent by the Netherworld Sea and have been detained by the relevant troops in the transport tower. I asked the City Lord to at most. Scholars? Chu Tian patted his forehead. He remembered. Chu Tian had received a gift from the Nether King not long ago. He had given Chu Tian 50 undead sages. Now that this group of undead had arrived, Chu Tian immediately went to greet this group of envoys. This group of undead could be considered the same. Some were spirits, some were liches, some were skeletons, and some were liches. In short, they were all surrounded by a strong death aura, making it hard for living people to approach them. Chu Tian quickly came forward. You must be the sages from the Netherworld Sea. The titles of scholars on the continent were Scholar, Great Scholar, Country Scholar, Great Country Scholar, Sage, and Great Sage. Everyone thought that the Netherworld Sea was a king's land surrounded by death all year round, but very few people knew that the Netherworld Sea was the place with the deepest research on the continent. This was because the undead had an unlimited lifespan. This was because the undead didn't have any other pleasures. This was because the undead couldn't increase their cultivation through eating pills or cultivation methods. Therefore, most of the highly intelligent undead would choose the path of research. Actually, according to Chu Tian's knowledge, the reason humans could rise on the continent was because they had obtained large amounts of knowledge from the undead. This knowledge was researched by the undead for tens of thousands of years, and humans used this knowledge as a foundation to create source energy technology. The intelligence of the undead couldn't be underestimated. The undead sages were old undead that had existed for a very long time. Chu Tian knew that although the undead were immortal from a biological point of view, the undead couldn't truly exist forever. Just like the city's smart brain, Zero, who was once a lich, after a long time, the undead's consciousness would gradually disappear. This was a hard-to-resist mental aging. For these fellows to exist for this long, they most likely had some special skills. One of the necromancers came over and said, the Nether King has allowed us to come to Miracle City to study. In the next 5 years, we will be managed by the City Lord. Of course, we will receive the treatment we deserve. All the research materials and consumption will be provided by Miracle City. Was 5 years even considered time to the undead? But to Chu Tian, 5 years was too long. No matter what goal the Nether King had in sending these 50 sage-level scholars to Miracle City, in these 5 years, it was enough for Chu Tian to do a lot of things. These are all things that should be done. What domains are you proficient in? Chu Tian understood how precious these undead sages were. Some of them were proficient in the spatial domain, some were proficient in the spiritual domain, and some were proficient in the soul domain. There were even some that studied time. There were some undead sages that were famous people when they were alive, but they had undead rituals to pursue eternal life. Good, very good. Miracle City needs people and you've come at the right time. I won't mistreat you. With these sage-level super scholars joining, Miracle Commerce's research and development abilities would increase greatly. The thoughts and ideas that appeared in Chu Tian's mind became more and more crazy because of this. Chapter 626. The Yun sect's research facility was large, but they lacked peak experts. This was the main difference between Miracle City and the empires. This time the Nether King had sent 50 undead sages from the Netherworld Sea and they were in different areas. This was undoubtedly a timely help to Miracle City. Chu Tian decided to properly display their value. He would let Miracle Commerce's technology reach another level in a short period of time. What was the Nether King's goal? It didn't matter. He would just treat these sages as studying abroad. Chu Tian wasn't afraid of his technology being stolen because 5 years was enough for miracle commerce to cover the entire continent. At that time, even if a portion was stolen, it wouldn't be of much use. Not to mention that Chu Tian's technology was constantly being updated, so the parts that could be stolen would always be outdated. Chu Tian had just settled these undead sages when Meng Qinggu quickly contacted him. "There is a special matter. Quickly come back and we'll talk." Chu Tian returned to the Miracle Castle and saw several people dressed in the clothes of various countries. Meng Qinggu immediately introduced them to Chu Tian. A few of the empires and empire-level forces envoys, Feng Yu, Fen Tian, Berserk Beast, Netherworld Ocean, etc. They must have been ordered by their respective bosses to come and discuss some important matters. So it's the envoys of the various countries? Sorry for the disrespect. Chu Tian cupped his hands and directly asked, "What matter do you have to teach this one?" "How could we dare teach Sir Miracle City's city lord?" A female envoy from the Wind Moon Empire respectfully said, "We are here on the Emperor's orders to negotiate a cooperation." At this time, the Burning Heaven Empire's people couldn't help saying, "City Lord Chu Tian, our Burning Heaven Empire came first. Even if you want to cooperate, you should cooperate with us first." The Dragon Territory's people didn't like it. "This business isn't like normal shopping, how can it be first come first served? Of course we'll choose whoever has the best conditions." What was this situation? Chu Tian looked at Meng Qinggu beside him with a strange gaze. Meng Qinggu gave a soft cough and explained for the envoys, "Because the miracle helmets are selling so well in the Miracle Shopping Center, it is very regretful that the citizens of the empires didn't manage to buy one. However, it's not that the people in the Empire District don't have the capital and interest. It's just that the speed at which miracle commerce spreads is very limited. Most of the Empire District hasn't been able to cover it yet. Moreover, the bidding period is too short, so they don't have the time and channels to participate." Chu Tian could guess what was going on. It was the emperors who were jealous of Miracle City's profits, so they wanted to come in and earn some more, so? The Burning Heaven Emperor has decided to take out the first batch of 500,000 helmets and use Miracle Commerce's shopping mall to auction them across the continent. We will also set up auction locations in the various states of the Empire, allowing the people of the Empire to participate. We can guarantee a good price and let the people of the Empire experience the wonders of the Miracle Helmet." Chu Tian rolled his eyes. What kind of reason was this? If they were really thinking for the citizens of the Empire, why would they need to sell it at a high price? They could just directly sell it. They wanted to earn money from their own citizens, but they had to use such a good reason. This kind of thing, Chu Tian could only snort in disdain. But then again, you've made 500,000 helmets this quickly. Chu Tian was very suspicious of this number. "I remember that the large helmet factory in the Burning Heaven Empire had just been built. Could it be that you can make helmets out of thin air?" The Heaven Burning Empire envoy said in a serious tone, "The helmets haven't been made yet, but we can sell them first. We'll have a 3-5 day auction and then wait another 3-5 days, won't we have finished making the helmets?" Chu Tian simply couldn't accept it. These fellows didn't even make it and they were already selling it. How could there be a business like this in this world? They simply couldn't wait to make a profit, as if they were afraid someone else would take it first. Chu Tian looked at the others. Although he didn't ask, from their expressions, it seemed like they were all thinking the same thing. It really made him blush with shame. Chu Tian didn't even have time to express his opinion before the envoys began to argue about who they should cooperate with. The Wind Moon Empire envoy said, "Miracle City will first cooperate with the Wind Moon Empire and will give 10% of the profits to Miracle City." 10%? The Heaven Burning Empire's envoy gave a cold laugh before loudly announcing, "Our Heaven Burning Empire will give 20%. So fierce. Directly double it." The Dragon Territory envoy was even more arrogant, "Dragon Territory is willing to give 30%. Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu watched these envoys fight to the side. A quarter of the profits would be given to Miracle Commerce. Miracle Commerce could really earn money lying down. Chu Tian even suspected that if they continued to argue, they would raise the chips to 50%. These powers were in a long-term competition with each other. Therefore, they would rather earn less or not earn at all than let the other side earn. The Dark Knight Forest envoy saw that arguing like this wasn't a solution, so his eyes fell onto Chu Tian and he said, "City Lord Chu Tian, what do you think?" The envoys stopped at the same time and looked at Chu Tian. "Everyone, please calm down." Chu Tian spoke to appease everyone. "Think about it, if you have to choose one, wouldn't you be offending everyone else? Miracle City will not do this kind of offending thing. You are all deeply rooted overlords of the continent and Miracle City is a rising star that has only appeared in recent years, how could we dare offend you?" The envoys all looked at each other in blank dismay. This kind of choice made Miracle City feel very awkward. Chu Tian said at this time, "I have a method that everyone will be happy with, it just depends on whether you agree or not." "What method?" The Wind Moon Empire envoy quickly asked, "Tell me." Chu Tian slowly replied, "Why do you need to fight over it? Our era is developing very quickly, so don't think about eating alone. Sharing and cooperating is the way to prosperity in the future, so we can all become rich together." The envoys didn't understand. Chu Tian explained, "You can each take out 500,000 helmets and put them all into the Miracle Shopping Center. The final source stones will be split fairly, it will be a large profit, isn't it a happy ending?" This was indeed a method. But there were people who didn't agree. The Wind Moon Empire envoy said, "How can this be? Our Wind Moon Empire is rich and strong, can your Heaven Burning Empire compare? If we split it evenly, wouldn't we suffer a large loss? I don't even want to split it with you. The Heaven Burning Empire has a large population and wide territory, can you compare? Speaking of wealth, the Dragon Territory is the richest. Speaking of people, the Wild Beast Empire has the most people." These envoys were arguing and no one wanted to give in at all. This gave Chu Tian a headache. Meng Qinggu couldn't help standing up and saying, "Everyone listen to me." Meng Qinggu was a person with a lot of prestige. The envoys were clear in their hearts that the one in charge of Miracle City was this woman, so it was best to restrain themselves in front of this woman. After all, they would have to deal with her often in the future. Actually, this problem isn't hard to solve. Miracle Commerce's smart brain system can analyze the buying situation and the total price. We can give a larger share to the places with higher sales and a smaller share to the places with lower sales. This way, we can divide the profits fairly. Naturally, this was a method. But the envoys were not satisfied. Meng Qinggu threw out another condition: Miracle Commerce can only accept a win-win cooperation. As for Miracle City's share, we only want 20%. If the envoys can go back and convince His Majesty, we can immediately begin our cooperation. Otherwise, it will be hard, so I ask you to weigh the pros and cons. Was there a choice? Who didn't like to earn more source stones? The empires didn't have a channel like the Miracle Shopping Center, so even if they produced the helmets, they wouldn't be able to sell them. The production of the helmets hadn't reached a large scale yet, so how much could they earn by selling the helmets at the same price? This bit of source stones was nothing in the eyes of the empires. The envoys brought back Meng Qinggu's words. On the same day, the rulers held a meeting with Meng Qinggu using the spiritual helmets. They all agreed to Meng Qinggu's proposal, mainly discussing the details. For example, how many helmets each empire would reserve to prevent the first batch of helmets being bought by other empires. For example, how to divide the profits of the helmets so they wouldn't have to fight over the profits after they were sold. After Meng Qinggu mediated, finally she came up with a proposal that everyone was satisfied with. This matter was decided like this. The Wind Moon Empire, the Heaven Burning Empire, the Wild Beast Empire, the Dark Knight Forest, the Dragon Territory, and the Netherworld Sea, these 6 main powers would each provide 500,000 helmets, for a total of 3 million helmets. They would all be placed in the Miracle Shopping Center for auction. The range of the bidding this time was even wider. Each empire had a place to bid in their country's states and affiliated imperial cities. This meant that the spending power of the country and the outside world would be mobilized and the bidding time would be longer, reaching a full 7 days, allowing the rich people from all walks of life to bid. For the miracle helmets to become a popular product on the continent, it would take at least another year or two. Right now the miracle helmets were just a luxury item for the rich. There were no rich people on the continent that were worth hundreds of millions of source stones. These fellows didn't lack money at all. As long as they could experience the spiritual helmets, what did it matter if they spent 30,000-50,000 or more source stones? In order to have more reason to bid, miracle commerce began to wildly advertise to the outside. The Miracle City Lord's wedding was coming and this was the last batch of miracle helmets before the miracle continent opened. If they missed this chance, they would have to wait at least another month or two. Chapter 627. The helmets were working with the 6 empire-level powers, so there were many diplomatic matters that needed to be dealt with. It was best to let Meng Qinggu mediate. The empires were determined to make a profit. Miracle commerce could also make a sum of source stones, so why wouldn't they do it? Actually, source stones was secondary. Miracle commerce could use this chance to spread out the miracle shopping centers. Although they didn't have enough time to build a complete miracle shopping center, they could help the empire powers build temporary stations in the main cities. These temporary stations couldn't be opened because of logistics, but it was enough to buy the helmets. This was because it wasn't hard for miracle commerce to send information. The Heaven's Net airships existed to build a communication network, so a single Heaven's Net airship could cover a large area. Miracle Commerce's Heaven's Net airships could be mass-produced long ago, therefore they could quickly spread the information network in the main areas of the empires. 3 million helmets, with a base price of 20 source stones, the bidders could buy them at a higher price. It was unknown how many times the average price would be this time, but it would definitely surpass the previous sale by Miracle Commerce. On one hand, this was because this sale was targeted at richer people, and on the other hand, after Miracle Commerce's previous auction, the miracle helmets had become a hot topic on the continent, receiving more attention than ever before. Not to mention the fact that the miracle continent was about to open. This was an important factor that pushed people to buy the helmets. This was because according to what Miracle Commerce revealed, the earlier they entered the miracle continent, the more opportunities they would have in the virtual world. Once the miracle continent became the spiritual home of the people of the continent, its value could not be measured. Paying several tens of thousands of source stones was not worth mentioning at all. Chu Tian's work was also very important. He brought Ying and Jean Luo to ride the elevator, first arriving at the Gnome research base. Chu Tian remembered the first time he came to this research base, the entire underground research base had stopped operating due to a lack of funds. At that time, the maintenance cost of several tens of thousands of source stones was enough to force a large research base down. Now that the underground research base was not only fully operating, it had more than doubled in size. With 10 million source stones invested every month, this number would continue to rise. In the center of the underground research center was a gigantic energy shield. This energy shield was powered by Miracle City's energy system, so unless the attacker's strength surpassed Miracle City's energy, it was impossible to break through this shield. Even if an Emperor-level expert came, they would need over half a day to break it. So this is the spiritual connection terminal. Meng Yingying already knew that Miracle City had this thing, but this was her first time seeing it. She blinked and asked Chu Tian, "This thing, can it really provide a spiritual connection to the entire continent?" Chu Tian said snappily, "Do you know how long Miracle Commerce prepared and how many source stones they invested to build it? There are several 100,000 helmets being released, and even if you add in the 3 million that will be released, there are less than 500. If we can't even connect to this bit of consciousness, what is the point of the miracle continent existing?" They walked into the barrier. Meng Yingying felt a powerful spiritual energy spread out and she looked at the scene in front of her in shock. There was a giant crystal ball inside, but the size of this crystal ball was too shocking. It was around 200 meters in diameter. What was most shocking was that this crystal ball was releasing spiritual energy. This meant that this crystal ball with a diameter of 200 meters was a high-intensity spiritual crystal. How many spiritual materials would be used to refine it? Just this crystal ball was worth over 100 million source stones. This incomparably large crystal ball was filled with all kinds of equipment, and there were over 1,000 gnomes maintaining it. Other than that, they were preparing to produce a second large crystal ball here. Sir City Lord. The gnome in charge Clark came over and said, "The first mother spiritual ball has already been tested and there are no problems. This kind of terminal can connect to at least 30 million people's consciousness, and if it is overloaded, it can reach 50 million. Our second mother spiritual ball is also being constructed, and I estimate that it will be completed in a month." Chu Tian said with a nod, "Speed it up, the more mother spiritual balls the better." Although there is no requirement for the capacity in the short term, the Miracle Commerce helmets will explode in half a year. We will receive a large test and challenge in all aspects. Yes, Sir City Lord. I'll inspect it first. Now that the entire continent knew that Miracle City was preparing to open the Miracle Continent, if something went wrong at this crucial time, not only would the company lose face, even Chu Tian wouldn't be able to put his face. Meng Yingying looked up at the giant crystal ball and said in a surprised voice, "Such a large spiritual crystal, how much money and resources did it take to make it? What kind of principle does it operate on?" "This is the mother spiritual ball. It contains a large amount of spiritual energy and is actually the generator of the spiritual world. Our Miracle Continent was created inside, and it also acts as a terminal, allowing the users of the Miracle Helmets to connect to it. This way, they can enter the Miracle Continent." Chu Tian used his divine sense to inspect the mother spiritual ball's details and operation as he continued to explain, "Other than the terminal system, we also have the Smart Brain Array system and a launch system. The Smart Brain Array system was made of a large amount of super smart brains. These super smart brains were distributed throughout Miracle City because the changes, order, and laws of the Miracle Continent needed to be stable. This had a very high requirement for data processing, so it wasn't enough without a large amount of smart brains. The launch system was made of large amounts of launch towers. Although spiritual energy was different from other kinds of energy and spiritual energy wouldn't weaken with distance, it could still be disturbed by other strong spiritual energy arrays or mines. In order to prevent this from happening, Miracle City had to increase the spiritual signal sending and receiving ability to ensure that it could cover the entire continent." Chu Tian finished his inspection. There weren't any big problems. But he still pointed out a few small flaws. Meng Yingying looked at the incomparably large mother spiritual ball in front of her with anticipation. "I really want to see the Miracle Continent as soon as possible. Our Miracle Commerce has created a world. It's even stronger than a spiritual god." Chu Tian smiled as he held his fiancée's hand. "What are you in a rush for? I'll definitely give you a pleasant surprise at that time." While Chu Tian was busy with the final inspection and preparations for the Miracle Continent's wedding, the Miracle Shopping Center was already in full swing. Chu Tian used a day or two to guide and repair the mother spiritual ball's construction and maintenance before leaving the underground research center. He returned to the surface to personally prepare for the wedding. This was the official start of the new round of auction sales. Meng Qinggu used the smart brain to calculate the first day's data. There were a total of 19,130,000 people bidding, with a total of 89,600,000 times. When this data was announced, everyone was shocked. The first day of the new round of auction sales hadn't even ended yet. There were many important areas of the empire that hadn't even set up a temporary station, but the data had already far surpassed the previous 3 days. It could be imagined just how popular the Miracle Helmets were. The Miracle Helmets weren't just a practical item now, the buyers were using it to show their status and identity. This was a symbol of wealth and strength. Meng Qinggu targeted the mentality of this group of people, therefore she specially announced that before the Miracle Continent opened, all the helmets in advance would be limited edition commemorative helmets that were completely different from the future helmets. As long as the buyer was over 3 times the price, they would all receive a souvenir. The buyers in the top 10% would all receive a precious mark to show their status. The buyers in the top 1% would have the right to use special materials to customize the helmet's appearance or quality. Miracle Commerce didn't need to invest too much in these things, but the results were very shocking. When the first day of auction sales ended and the data was taken out, the miracle commerce people were all stunned. The first place bid was 2 million source stones. The lowest ranking helmet out of 3 million was 200. This number was already double the first time they sold the helmets. When Meng Qinggu sent the data to the emperors, these emperors were all dumbfounded. It wouldn't be strange if this number was obtained on the last day, but to reach this level on the first day, this was a bit too shocking, far surpassing their expectations. Everyone was filled with anticipation. What kind of shocking number would this sale bring? Chapter 628. The auction was like a raging fire. Each piece of data was explosively increasing. From the emperor to the common people, they all paid close attention to this change, treating it as entertainment after a meal. The data that popped out every day refreshed people's understanding of the world. The people of the continent finally realized just how rich were the rich. Chu Tian didn't pay too much attention to this matter because he knew the result even if he used his butt to think. Since he already knew the result, why would he pay attention to it all day? Chu Tian only did two things every day. One was to bring Mang Yingying and the others for a stroll around tasting delicacies, and the other was to prepare for the West Sea City wedding. But while Miracle City was having a peaceful time, City Lord Bo Sha suddenly came to Miracle City. After the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom submitted to the Forest Alliance, West Sea City took over most of the 10,000 Flood Dragon Warring Kingdom's sea territory and subsidiary powers. Their position in the Western Sea became higher day by day and their days became better day by day. But why did she come to Miracle City at this time? Chu Tian personally met her. Why does City Lord Bo Sha have the time to come to Miracle City to drink tea? How are West Sea City's preparations? There are only a few days left until my wedding. Naturally, West Sea City has already prepared. City Lord Bo Sha said to Chu Tian with a serious expression, "But Sir City Lord, I came to Miracle City this time mainly to report an important matter to you." Chu Tian was a bit stunned hearing this. Although he didn't know what it was, for City Lord Bo Sha to personally come, it wasn't a small matter and it wouldn't be anything good. Now that Chu Tian and Yingying's wedding was about to begin, there couldn't be any chaos at this time. Bo Sha gave a helpless sigh and said, "I've heard some news. The Big Dry Empire is beginning to stir." Chu Tian's brows instantly knit together. This was the worst matter. Everyone knew that the Big Dry Empire had enmity with Miracle City, but ever since the Big Dry Empire was defeated, the Big Dry Empire hadn't made any moves. However, for a power like the Big Dry Empire, they couldn't swallow this, so it was only a matter of time before they retaliated. They had endured this period of time because they were making more preparations. Chu Tian immediately asked, "Did you get any useful information?" Bo Sha honestly reported, "According to what I know, the Big Dry Emperor is visiting several large characters, including the Spirit Beast race's Howling Sky Empire's Howling Sky Emperor and the Highland King of the Northern Continent's Highland Alliance." Chu Tian frowned. Where did these two come from? The Howling Sky Empire is the continent's largest werewolf spirit beast empire. It is said that their cavalry is unparalleled in the world. They are a very belligerent empire. They often go to war with the Dark Night Forest, the Burning Heaven Empire, and even the Big Dry Empire. Moreover, they are able to escape from them. This is enough to show that they are not simple. As for the Highland Alliance, it's an alliance established in the north that covers almost all of the northern highlands and Iceweave. It's the largest faction on the continent, and it's mainly made up of humans, dwarves, giants, ice trolls, snow elves, and so on. Their alliance model is slightly different from ours, but they're also a veteran emperor-class faction on the continent. These two empires also didn't like Miracle City. When Chu Tian held the Miracle Summit, Meng Qinggu had sent people to give them invitations, but these arrogant fellows scoffed at Miracle City. This wasn't surprising. Whether it was the Howling Sky Empire or the Highland Alliance, they were all too far from Miracle City, so Miracle Commerce's influence on them was limited. The Howling Sky Empire was a spirit beast empire. The spirit beasts were arrogant, barbaric, rude, and short-sighted, so they didn't believe that miracle commerce could do anything at all. As for the Highland Alliance, it was different. The Highland Alliance was different from the Forest Alliance. The Forest Alliance had equal relations with each forest city. The Highland Alliance's territory was over 10 times larger than the Forest Alliance's territory, being made up of several warring kingdoms. Basically, whoever was the strongest was the boss. The Highland Alliance was also quite far. On one hand, they didn't know anything about miracle commerce, and on the other hand, the alliance's power structure was quite chaotic. The relationships between them were very complicated, so miracle commerce's invitation was easily obstructed. Now that the Big Dry Empire had pulled in these two powers, they were most likely preparing to make a move on Chu Tian's wedding. After all, Chu Tian had caused the Big Dry Empire to suffer heavy losses and lose face, so the Big Dry Empire wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine. Chu Tian felt a headache as he asked, "How many troops have they gathered?" Bo Sha shook her head and said, "This information is currently unknown." The Big Dry Empire planned to launch an unexpected attack, so they would definitely hide their troops. Miracle City was in the light and they were in the dark. Miracle City's strength was limited and they were on the defensive side, so it was impossible for there to be no loopholes. How could they block the attack of the three powers? This news came too suddenly. There were only a few days left until the wedding. Chu Tian felt this matter was very important, so he called Meng Qinggu over to discuss it. Meng Qinggu never thought that the Big Dry Empire would make a move at this time. She thought about it for a bit before saying, "We have to use Miracle City's resources to investigate the situation. At the very least, we need to know how many people they are sending, what kind of troops they are sending, and where they are preparing to attack from. Only like this can we prepare against them." Chu Tian asked, "Do we have confidence in successfully defending against them with our military strength?" Miracle City's current position in the alliance is enough to summon the entire alliance to fight against the enemy. If it was just one empire-level power, it wouldn't be a problem. But there are three of them and their goal is very clear, which is to attack West Sea City. Even in a one-on-one situation, we can't guarantee West Sea City's safety. West Sea City's current defenses definitely couldn't compare to Miracle City's. After all, Miracle City had a powerful weapon and shield system, as well as the ancient Tree of Life and the Treants as additional defenses. It would be very difficult for Miracle City to attack the three powers, not to mention the clearly weaker West Sea City. The most important thing was, this was not an offensive or defensive battle. When the West Sea City wedding was halfway through, the Big Dry Empire's army would suddenly attack. Whether they could defend West Sea City or not, the wedding that Miracle City had planned for a long time couldn't continue. Meng Qinggu suggested, "Our strength has grown, but we are far from being strong enough to deal with several empire-level powers. We can only ask for help from the other empires." This was a very troublesome matter. Out of the six powers, the only one that had a good relationship with Miracle City was the Dark Night Forest, and this was because the Dark Night Forest's moon god's palace was controlled by Chu Tian. As for the other powers, it was hard to guess. It would be good if they didn't hit them while they were down. Would they help them? We have common interests and they are counting on Miracle City to earn large amounts of money. I think there's no problem, I'll personally try. Meng Qinggu knew the situation was urgent, so she had to act as a mediator. Chapter 629. Meng Qinggu sent out an emergency spiritual conference invitation to the six empires. This so-called spiritual conference was connected to the spiritual helmets, using the spiritual helmets to create a conference hall. After all, these six famous characters of the continent were not small fries. If they could come and go as they pleased, would they still have any dignity to speak of? If they didn't have any dignity, Miracle City wouldn't have any good days ahead of them. The spiritual conference could solve their worries. The six powers had been staring at the Miracle Shopping Center's bidding list all day and they had already realized how strong the Miracle Shopping Center was. If Meng Qinggu invited them to a spiritual conference at this time, they definitely wouldn't reject it. Therefore, they all put on their helmets at the same time. The Burning Heaven Emperor broke out in laughter when he came in. The Miracle Shopping Center's ability to make money really makes people jealous. Miracle City has this kind of money tree in their hands, they can't not make money even if they don't want to. The Wind Moon Empress elegantly drank a cup of tea. Of course this tea was a spiritual illusion. She slowly said, "Miracle Commerce can just lie down and make money in the future, it's not bad if we can drink some soup from the back." The Dragon Race's Great Elder and the Nether King both felt the same way. Meng Qinggu felt that the atmosphere wasn't right when she came in. These fellows were peak existences of the continent, it wasn't simple for them to sit in this position. It was hard not to be confused by their current appearance. Meng Qinggu looked at the Dark Knight Elven King and she obtained some information from the Dark Knight Elven King's eyes. So it was like this. The Big Dry Empire working with the Howling Sky Empire and the Highland Alliance, even West Sea City could find some clues about this matter. These were peak existences of the continent, how could they not have a trace of it? This was clearly not realistic. Now that they came out crying about being poor and praising miracle commerce, Meng Qinggu thought there was only one possibility. These fellows had other plans. Meng Qinggu knew this matter couldn't be avoided, so she wasn't polite with them. She was too lazy to beat around the bush as she directly said, "I think the various majesties already know about Miracle City's situation. Our opponent the Big Dry Empire has gathered two large powers to make a move on the wedding day in West Sea City. Your Majesty should understand that the Miracle Continent will open on the day of the West Sea City's wedding. The opening of the Miracle Continent is very important to the sales of the helmets and everyone will benefit from the helmets. In the future, you can rely on the helmets to earn tens of billions of source stones, so I hope that in this difficult time for Miracle City, everyone can help us." The few emperors were slightly stunned. Meng Qinggu directly threw out the problem and showed a weak attitude of asking for help, which surprised them. "It's not that I can't help you." A rough voice rang out. The one speaking was the Wild Beast Empire's Wild Beast Emperor. This Spirit Beast Emperor loudly said, "Only the Spirit Beasts are poor, so the military expenditure is not a small amount." Military expenditure? If you can't even take out the military expenditure, your Wild Beast Empire might as well be destroyed. Meng Qinggu knew that it was impossible to get through this without cutting a few pieces of flesh. She was already prepared for this from the beginning. After all, Miracle City was in a cooperative relationship with them and not an alliance. They had no obligation to send troops for Miracle City, therefore they could only think of how to maximize their benefits. Miracle City wouldn't be destroyed this time, but once the Big Dry Empire's army interrupted the long-awaited West Sea City wedding, causing the opening of the Miracle Continent to be delayed, Miracle Commerce's reputation and prestige on the continent would be greatly reduced. Once West Sea City fell, Miracle City would lose the entire West Sea, which would be a very large loss. Meng Qinggu said without even thinking, "Miracle City only wants 10% of the profit from selling the helmets, the rest will belong to everyone here." This sentence was worth at least several hundred million source stones. What kind of concept was several hundred million source stones? The Wild Beast Empire was a bit poor and the per capita value of the Spirit Beast Empire, they only received several hundred million in taxes each month. This was an empire with over 10 billion people, but their annual income was this pitiful. Meng Qinggu didn't even blink as she gave up several hundred million source stones. Don't you want source stones? Don't you want military expenditure? I don't believe several hundred million source stones aren't enough. City Lord Meng, please don't think that we're taking advantage of you. Actually, we really want to help you. Burning Heaven Emperor had a troubled look on his face. Once we start fighting, we will offend three forces of the same scale. We have to weigh the pros and cons carefully, so the matter of primordial stones is not important. Meng Qinggu directly said, "Everyone, don't forget that we are in a cooperative relationship. If anything happens to Miracle Commerce, you will all be affected. Once the Miracle Continent is delayed, the popularity of the Miracle Helmets will greatly decrease. Other than that, our future cooperation won't work and everyone will suffer losses. I'm afraid it won't be as simple as using source stones." The Burning Heaven Emperor shook his head and said, City Lord Meng's words are reasonable, but just based on this agreement, it's a bit hard for us to make this decision. Meng Qinggu asked, what does everyone want? At this time, the Wild Beast Empire's Wild Beast Emperor was like a hungry wolf that smelled blood. He immediately stood up and said with glowing eyes, how about this, you give us a bit of the Miracle Commerce Center's shares and we'll be partners. We'll all be one family in the future, so we can help each other out. He actually wanted the Miracle Commerce Center's shares. This Miracle Commerce Center was one of Miracle Commerce's most important income channels, and it was the platform that Miracle Commerce had been laying out the longest. It couldn't be calculated now, but it could create infinite value in the future. Right now the Miracle Commerce Center was 100% controlled by the Miracle Commerce Group. Even if it was just a bit of shares, it would be like cutting a piece of meat for the Miracle Commerce people. The Wild Beast Emperor was really crazy poor. He actually had this kind of idea. Meng Qinggu knit her brows and firmly said, the Miracle Commerce Center is the foundation of the future, don't you think the Wild Beast Emperor's request is a bit excessive? The dragon race's great elder couldn't help saying, the Miracle Commerce Center's value is hard to calculate, but because this platform has too much potential, if Miracle Commerce monopolizes the continent in the future, wouldn't we really have to beg for food behind Miracle Commerce's back? Even from a strategic point of view, Miracle Commerce shouldn't completely control the Miracle Commerce Center. This will only make the other powers of the continent feel fear towards you and Miracle City. These words were more reasonable than the Wild Beast Emperor's. The Miracle Commerce Center covered the entire continent and the entire business was controlled by Miracle City. If there was a conflict with Miracle City, would just a single Miracle Commerce Center be enough to kill them? This kind of situation where those who complied would prosper and those who disobeyed would perish was not something any ruler wanted to see. Meng Qinggu didn't give an inch as she bargained, other than giving us 10% of the profits from the Miracle Helmets. Miracle City and Miracle Commerce can stop producing helmets in the future and let you enjoy all the profits from the Miracle Helmets. This was another large piece of the cake being cut out. Miracle Commerce wouldn't make their own helmets in the future, which meant that Miracle Commerce would have to research and develop their helmets. This job would be given to the Six Powers, which would allow the Six Powers to earn a large sum of money in the future. The Wind Moon Empress couldn't help saying, we can develop to this day because of the thousands of years of our ancestors' capital. Even if we are poor, we have at least 100 billion source stones in reserve. We want peace of mind and you have to know that it is hard to fight for a country and even harder to defend it. The previous emperor's foundation can't go downhill in our hands. The Nether King didn't say a word. But this was the basic meaning. This argument went back and forth for over an hour. The emperors seemed like they had eaten Miracle City up. They knew that Miracle City didn't have time to think at all because the West Sea City wedding was in a few days. How could they have time to slowly negotiate? This situation was too pressing. Meng Qinggu never thought these fellows would be so shrewd. No matter how they argued, they were all watertight. Meng Qinggu even vaguely realized that this slaughter was premeditated. They might have already known that the Big Dry Empire was contacting the other two empire powers and they might have already known when they would make a move. They might even have deliberately leaked the news of West Sea City. The most important thing was, it wasn't hard for the emperors to investigate Miracle Commerce's mission. This wedding involved Meng Yingying and Chu Tian, both of them were the most important people to Meng Qinggu. Everyone had a weakness, even a smart person like Meng Qinggu was no exception. So as long as they grasped this point, they were confident they could make a large profit. Meng Qinggu realized that she was in a passive position. She also realized how important strength was. If Miracle Commerce was strong enough, why would they waste their breath on them? Investing a large amount in military construction was correct, but now it seemed like it wasn't big enough, they needed to increase it. Meng Qinggu wasted 2 hours. She didn't want to waste time, so she threw out her final bottom line, other than the 10% profit from the helmet sales and the promise that Miracle Commerce won't make any more helmets, I can give you the rights to operate the Miracle Commerce Centers in your area, allowing you to personally manage the Miracle Commerce Centers and the local trading network. Miracle Commerce won't interfere and you just need to give Miracle Commerce a commission based on your actual income each year. The Wild Beast Emperor was a bit unhappy. We still need to pay. Your Majesties, this is Miracle Commerce's final bottom line. Meng Qingwu's expression was very serious. Like this, since the Miracle Commerce centers are in your hands, your so-called worries don't exist. If your Majesties still can't accept this, please forgive Meng Qingwu for not being able to continue this discussion. Meng Qingwu said this and gave the Night Elven King a look. The Night Elven King Eunice gave 2 soft coughs before saying, "Everyone take a step back, this result is good for us." "I don't care what you think," the Dark Knight Forest agrees. West Sea City was very important to Miracle City. But it wasn't to the point where they couldn't live after losing it. Meng Qingwu wasn't joking, this really was her final bottom line. Actually, if it wasn't for the wedding being with Chu Tian and her beloved little sister, she wouldn't have made this many concessions with her personality. The others all looked at each other. It was about time. This cooperation with Miracle City would continue for a long time. If their relationship was too stiff because of benefits, it wouldn't be good for anyone. City Lord Meng is truly worthy of being a female hero, this kind of courage is admirable. The Wind Moon Empress was the first to express her support. "We are all women, of course we have to support them." The Wind Moon Empire agrees. The Nether King said in a cold voice, "Agreed." 3 of the 6 powers agreed. What could the other 3 say? They had to respect Miracle City, so they all agreed on the spot. Chapter 630. The matter of Meng Qingwu being ruthlessly swindled in the negotiations made Meng Yingying so angry that she almost jumped through the roof. How could these fellows be this excessive? This was simply bullying people. This was clearly throwing stones at someone while they were down, this was clearly profiteering from someone else's misfortune. Ever since these people worked with Miracle Commerce, when had Miracle Commerce mistreated them? They built transport towers for them, built warehouses for them, and gave them communication devices, as well as many things that didn't earn them source stones. Now that Miracle Commerce was in trouble, not only did they not help them, they even demanded sky-high prices. "Young Miss, Yingying, are you here?" Chu Tian was holding a bouquet of flowers as he gracefully appeared at the door. He saw that the 2 sisters' expressions weren't right and immediately walked over with a smile. He casually picked the flowers from the miracle gardens and placed them in a vase. "What's wrong with you 2 sisters today? Why do you look so unhappy? Is there something you're unhappy about?" Meng Yingying pulled them over. "Elder sister has been bullied by others because of us." Chu Tian was a bit stunned. "Bullied?" Meng Yingying waved her hands as she explained the matter. "Do you think it's infuriating?" Chu Tian knit his brows when he heard this. Something like this actually happened? Then we'll give them a lesson. Come, we'll go find them and argue with them. Meng Yingying had a suspicious expression. "Is there any use in arguing?" Chu Tian changed his words and said, "Then we'll fight them." Meng Yingying looked at him with wide eyes. "Are you crazy? They are all empires." Chu Tian had an indignant look on his face. "We can't argue and we can't fight, so what should we do?" "I'll have to help you vent your anger. Let me think about it." Meng Yingying felt a little guilty. She was afraid that Chu Tian would do something shocking again. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Anyway, we've already suffered a loss, so we should just endure it. Let them come and save us first. When we become stronger in the future, we'll teach them a harsh lesson. Chu Tian knew that Meng Yingying would have such an attitude and reaction. On one hand, Miracle City wasn't confident and on the other hand, Miracle City didn't need to do this. Chu Tian had already inquired about this matter and the worries of the emperors were completely understandable from their point of view. If Chu Tian was in their position, Chu Tian would be even more ruthless. After all, Miracle City needed the other side's help. How could there be this many good people in this world that didn't want any benefits? Yingying, forget it. We might have suffered a bit of loss this time, but we'll just lose a bit of source stones, it won't affect our strategy. Our Miracle Commerce doesn't lack sources of source stones, so we'll just let them go. Meng Qingwu's attitude was very good. Since this matter was already over, she didn't want to waste time on it. Now that they have obtained benefits, they have obtained the protection they deserve. They will be able to cooperate better with Miracle Commerce in the future, so Miracle Commerce didn't suffer a loss this time. Meng Yingying couldn't swallow this. But it was too hard to fight against these giants, she didn't have the courage. There was still time in the future, so she'll forget about it this time. At this time, Zero's smart brain suddenly said, the Wild Beast Empire has sent a piece of information. We have determined that it is accurate information on the enemy's distribution and movements, with an 80% accuracy. Do you want to take a look? Meng Qingwu's mind was shaken. Quickly send out the information. A projector sent out the information. This information was very clear on the situation of the Big Dry Empire, the Highland Alliance, and the Howling Sky Empire. From the current situation, the three powers had already gathered their armies in the Big Dry Empire's territory. There were around 1 million of them and they were all very mobile air forces. Chu Tian and Miracle Commerce didn't dare be careless this time. An entire 1 million, this wasn't a small number. Meng Yingying was also stunned. Why did they send out this many troops? I believe most of it is a smokescreen. Meng Qingwu calmly explained, this is not a country-destroying war, it's impossible for the three empires to send out most of their trump cards to attack West Sea City. If my guesses aren't wrong, over 60% of this 1 million army are normal elites and only a third of it is a trump card army like the one that attacked Miracle City last time. Even this was very shocking. Miracle City was attacked by the Big Dry Empire's 80,000 Dragon Hawk cavalry. If it wasn't for the ancient Tree of Life's indestructible barrier, if it wasn't for the Treants led by Cenarius, and the allied armies, Miracle City wouldn't have been able to resist. Now that there was no way to defend and they could only fight the enemy in the wild, the difficulty could not be compared to before. Since the information was already in their hands, Meng Qingwu quickly summoned the leaders of the 6 alliances. She held an emergency meeting and explained the situation. The Big Dry Empire has come with bad intentions this time. They will definitely cause trouble for us on the alliance's most important day. West Sea City can't be lost, we can't even suffer any attacks to avoid causing chaos and panic. Our mission this time is very difficult, which is to keep the enemy outside the Forest of Chaos. The Dragon Lord said with knit brows, even if we defend the city, it's not easy to stop them, not to mention outside the borders. There is a large gap between our battle strength and the empire groups. I have already negotiated with the 6 allied empires, they will support us in this battle. Even if we have the support of the 6 empires, there isn't enough time. Lancelot said, West Sea City's wedding will be held in a few days, even if the 6 empires gather their troops as fast as possible, it will be hard to make it in time. Not to mention that our Forest of Chaos is far from them, the transport towers can't transport that many people at all. Meng Qingwu answered this question. Actually it's very simple. The space gate has already been prepared, the 6 empires only need to gather at the nearest location. We will open the space gate to send them to Miracle City first and then teleport them to any battlefield from Miracle City. We just need to open the space gate in Miracle City. It was much easier like this. We won't let everyone work for nothing this time. Meng Qingwu threw out another good news. From today on, Miracle City will no longer produce the miracle helmets, but we will give the helmet factory and related technology to everyone here as a reward for your help this time. Everyone revealed a look of joy. This miracle helmet was a very large market and if they could get a piece of it, it would be a large amount of income. Meng Qingwu really had a way. She promised the rulers that she wouldn't produce helmets, but she gave the helmet factory and technology to the alliance members. This didn't go against the agreement and it created value for the alliance, allowing the partners to obtain real benefits. This large piece of fat meat was given to them to eat. How could they not work harder in this matter? Meng Qingwu continued to say, actually with the alliance's strength, everyone doesn't need to be pessimistic. Miracle City has already begun large-scale military investments and with everyone's help, even in a fair situation, we might not lose to an empire-level power. These people were half believing and half doubting these words. Miracle City had indeed defeated the Big Dry Empire once, but that victory was mainly because the Big Dry Empire didn't have enough intelligence and their love rivals. Other than that, Miracle City had the advantage of being the defending side, and it hadn't been long since the second battle began. The two battles were just different in terms of strength. Chapter 631. Everyone is on the same side. Miracle Commerce does not have any secrets to hide from you. Meng Qinggu was not a boastful person. She knew that no matter how extravagant her words were, it was better to directly show everyone something. Therefore, she directly ordered the smart brain, Zero, please show the newest weapon to the sirs. Yes, Vice City Lord. Zero shot out several beams of light that landed in the center of the conference hall. The various beams of light combined to form a three-dimensional image. This was a set of mech suits. There were 8 metal arms on the back, making it look like a large spider. This mech suit was completely different from the previous rough designs. The mech suit was completely streamlined, filled with a sense of technology and power. The single-soldier mech suit has always been one of Miracle Commerce's most important weapons, but compared to the previous designs, there has been a large breakthrough in this research. Zero immediately began to explain and the image began to change. This single-soldier spider mech suit uses the moon's high energy source, so its energy intensity is several times that of the past. Other than that, it has 2 layers of shields that can block a true spirit expert's attack 6-8 times. It is equipped with 8 attack systems and also has a battle support system. Other than that, the main body of the mech suit is made of liquid metal, so it can change its size according to the wearer's body. Meng Qinggu added, we have already produced 100,000 spider mech suits and they have already been equipped in Miracle City's strongest army. I believe that this mech suit army will become the mainstay of the battlefield. After Zero finished introducing the mech suit, he released several more beams of light. This time it was a puppet made entirely of metal. This puppet was very strange. Not only did it have human limbs, it also had a strange triangular wing on its back, so it should have the ability to fly. This is Miracle Commerce's newest winged battle robot. It also uses the moon's crystal oil as an energy source. It can adapt to all kinds of battles on land, sea, and air. This is a battle weapon made purely for the battlefield. It is a battle puppet without any intelligence. It has absolute obedience, absolute execution, absolute efficiency, and absolute precision. It can be directly controlled by a smart brain, with a total of 10 attack systems and weapons that can adapt to all kinds of battlefield environments. Meng Qinggu then added, Miracle City has already produced 50,000 of these winged battle robots. Their appearance will definitely be the enemy's nightmare. The 6 magnates were shocked when they heard this. Miracle City's new weapons used the special crystal oil energy extracted from the moon, so the strength of these weapons was several times stronger than before. Therefore, the power of the weapons and the defense of the shields were also several times stronger. This was a qualitative leap. The development of the moon had a large effect on Miracle City. Just the 100,000 mecha troopers and 50,000 mechanical soldiers would be a force to reckon with. With the help of the experts from a few major organizations, it would be enough to contend with an empire-level organization's army. Miracle City still had powerful warships. If they could send out several warships and several hundred Black Thunder fighters, they could even fight 1 or 2 of them. As everyone can see, Miracle City's equipment has been upgraded and the abilities of our fighter jets and battleships have been greatly increased. Other than that, there are many new weapons that everyone has never seen before, especially in the field of deep space weapons. I'll let everyone take a look now. After Zero obtained Meng Qingwu's permission, he released a 3-dimensional image. This was a large metal barrel with 2 iron wings slowly moving in the deep space. Actually, if one looked carefully, they would find that it wasn't a metal barrel at all, but rather a very large cannon. Zero introduced it. This is one of Miracle City's most important recent deep space laser cannons. It is over 500,000 meters away from the ground and is surrounded by the astral wind layer, so the continent's creatures can't approach it. The deep space laser cannon is a special source energy cannon. It is highly condensed energy and has a long range and high accuracy, becoming Miracle City's new top-tier weapon. The deep space laser cannon can shoot a strong energy beam from 500,000 meters away, directly attacking targets on the ground. This kind of weapon is basically unbeatable on the battlefield. The breathing of the Alliance leaders became heavy. What a terrifying war weapon this was. It was suspended in a place that people couldn't hit, but it could attack any target on the ground. It was simply a sword of judgment hanging above their heads, making it impossible for people to defend against it. Meng Qinggu saw everyone's expressions and revealed a proud smile. The deep space laser cannon is a weapon that Miracle City has just spent a lot of money on, only 2 of them have been made. We can use this battlefield to test the effects of the deep space laser cannon. This kind of basically unbeatable weapon appeared. It was an absolute nightmare for all enemies. The laser cannon could not only kill ground troops, it could also accurately attack enemy cities and hidden structures. With the continent's current level of warfare, they didn't have a good way to defend against this kind of weapon. Zero projected a 3-dimensional image again. This was another very special thing. It was like a huge round iron ball, but its surface was covered with dense holes. Zero explained, this is a deep space missile launch center that can store over 100,000 missiles at once. It is controlled by the smart brain and it can shoot out 200 missiles per second in a few minutes. If the deep space laser cannon is a fixed-point attack weapon, then the deep space missile launch center is a god of destruction. Meng Qinggu added, the honeycomb missile launch center has just produced one, we can also test its power in this battle. It's a pity that Miracle City's new ship manufacturing factory hasn't been completed yet. Otherwise, once Miracle City's fleet reaches a certain scale, adding in the fighter jets, mech suits, mechanical soldiers, deep space weapons, and ground weapons, combining all of them, the continent won't need to fear anyone. Whether it was the Dragon Lord or the Elven King, they were all convinced now. Not only were they convinced, they were also shocked by Miracle City's military might. It was only a matter of time before this power dominated this plane. In short, in front of a great enemy, our alliance has to be united. Meng Qinggu concluded, otherwise West Sea City will be attacked this time and we don't know where they will attack next time. Thunder's Fury said, we will advance and retreat with Miracle City. Right, right. Burst Claw said without any hesitation, we will also advance and retreat with Miracle City. Meng Qinggu nodded in satisfaction. She began to arrange a defense plan and when she finished everything, the auction for the helmets had just ended. Meng Yingying directly found Chu Tian and asked, Chu Tian, quickly tell me, how much did we earn from selling the helmets? Quickly tell me. Chu Tian replied, only 450 million. 450 million. That much. Meng Yingying was shocked by this number, but after carefully calculating it, she felt that there was a problem. How could we only earn 450 million from 3 million helmets? This is impossible. Chu Tian said, stupid, this 450 million was earned by our Miracle City. We only took a tenth of the total, the other 90% was divided by the 6 large countries. A tenth was 450 million. Then wouldn't the total be 4.5 billion? Meng Yingying felt like she was suffocating and instantly felt a strong sense of dizziness. Although she knew that the miracle helmets were very profitable and that this number would exceed 3 times, she never would have thought that it would create a shocking 4.5 billion profit. The miracle helmets were a bit troublesome to make, but the cost was actually very low. The 4.5 billion was basically a profit and each of the 6 large powers would receive around 670 million. This time, the emperors might not be able to close their mouths from smiling. Chapter 632. The 6 empire-level powers became the biggest winners in this matter. In this money-making operation, just by relying on Miracle City's hype, they instantly made 600-700 million source stones. To a poor country like the Wild Beast Empire, this was equivalent to a month's worth of tax. When Miracle City was in danger, they took advantage of the situation to obtain all kinds of benefits and protection. Perhaps this value wasn't shown yet, but looking at the future, it would be calculated in the tens of billions of source stones. Miracle City was this sincere. The six powers naturally couldn't just stand by and watch. The most important thing was that the helmets had been sold, but the source stones were still being withheld by Miracle City. They said that the system was busy right now, so they had to wait until after the West Sea City wedding to slowly give it to everyone. Who didn't know what Meng Qinggu was thinking? The empires couldn't let anything go wrong with the West Sea City wedding because of the 600-700 million source stones. Otherwise, who knew if Miracle City would find a reason to hold it for a longer time? The six powers all took action. The Dark Night Forest sent out 40,000 unicorn sacred beasts. The Heaven-Burning Empire sent out 40,000 Flame Hawk Knights. The Wind Moon Empire sent out 40,000 Sacred Sky Horse Knights. The Wild Beast Empire sent out 40,000 Twin-Legged Dragon Knights. The Dragon Territory sent out 20,000 dragons and the Netherworld Sea sent out 20,000 soul-devouring beasts. These armies were the trump card armies of the various powers. Although there weren't many of them, their quality was very high. Compared to the Big Dry Empire's 3 trump card armies, they were stronger and not weaker. Among them, the Wind Moon Empire, Wild Beast Empire, and Burning Heaven Empire all sent out their trump card elites. The Flame Hawk Knights were the direct subordinates of the Burning Heaven Emperor, the Wind Moon Sacred Sky Horse Knights were a famous super strong army on the continent, and the Wild Beast Empire's twin-legged dragons were a super strong army trained by the Wild Beast Empire's many battles. The Night Elves didn't directly send out their clansmen, the entire army was made up of demon beasts. The unicorn sacred beasts were stronger than normal unicorns, they grew up bathing in the Dark Night Forest's moon essence and being baptized by elven priests. They were brave and had a high intelligence, could fly, and could heal themselves or heal the enemy. The Dragon Territory directly sent out 20,000 dragons. These dragons were existences close to the Heaven Domain realm, and even if these 20,000 dragons were weak, they were still stronger than the trump card armies of an empire. The Nether Sea soul-devouring beast was a high-level undead monster refined by a necromancer. It had all kinds of unimaginable abilities and was enough to strike fear into the hearts of people on the battlefield. There were 200,000 reinforcements from the 6 nations. Although there weren't many of them, their combat strength was terrifying. No matter how strong the Big Dry Empire's army was, if they met this army, they would have to properly consider it. The only problem now was that it was too late for the armies of the 6 powers to rush to the Forest of Chaos, and the transport towers couldn't support such a large-scale transport array. Therefore, the armies of the 6 countries gathered in the Wind Moon Empire in the center of the continent, but it would still take several days to complete. West Sea City's wedding was right in front of them. Every corner of the continent was busy preparing for the wedding. The helmet factories of the 6 great empires continued to produce helmets, and the helmets would eventually be sent to the helmets buyers in every corner of the world. If everything went according to plan, they would be able to distribute the 3 million helmets they owed before the wedding. The Great Qian Empire's allied forces have begun to move. Meng Qinggu was sitting in the command center of Miracle Castle. When she learned of this news, Miracle City's powerful information system began to operate. Several dozen Heaven's Eye airships were monitoring the situation, so Miracle City could clearly see the Big Dry Empire's every move. Miracle City had been patiently waiting. They were mainly afraid of a 1 in 10,000 chance of accidental injuries. What if, the Big Dry Empire wasn't gathering their army to deal with the Forest of Chaos? Now that their army was moving at this critical moment, this meant that there was no 1 in 10,000 chance of a misunderstanding. Their sword was pointed at the Western Sea and their intentions were clear, so they didn't need to be merciful. The Big Dry Empire's army knew that they couldn't escape surveillance at all, so instead of hiding, they might as well release their momentum. They swallowed the sky and earth, creating a large momentum, without any intention of hiding at all. This was an army of over 1 million. This scene that covered the sky and earth like it was coming from West Sea City shocked all the large and small kingdoms. Not to mention the hidden elite army of the empires, even the other armies were elites of the empires, it wasn't something a small or large kingdom could resist. With this speed, they would arrive in West Sea City in around 2 days. When will the reinforcements of the 6 countries arrive? Reporting to the city lord, it will take at least 3 days. Meng Qingwu's finger gently tapped the table as her eyes stared at the dense life signals on the three-dimensional map made by Smart Brain. She quickly began to plan in her mind. 50,000 mech suits, 50,000 mechanical soldiers, 4 warships, 20 airships, 300 fighter jets, 2 deep space laser cannons, 1 deep space honeycomb missile center, and around 100,000 Alliance elite reinforcements. This was the total battle strength they had invested. It should be enough to deal with an empire's army, but if they wanted to hold back an army of 1 million and have a watertight defense, it would be a lot of pressure. Meng Qingwu said to Smart Brain after thinking about it. 0. Analyze the enemy's life signals. 0 was Miracle City's central Smart Brain. It could operate at a speed of 100 billion times per second, and its intelligence was the strongest of all the Smart Brains. 0 was connected to hundreds of secondary Smart Brains, and these secondary Smart Brains were in charge of different areas, from the army, to production, to finance, to banks, to the army, to the city management, to transportation, and etc. After Meng Qingwu gave the order to 0, 0 sent the order to the surveillance AI. The surveillance AI contacted the Heaven's Eye airships that were hovering above the enemy and increased the intensity of the undead radar inside the Heaven's Eye airships to cover the entire army of the Deqian Empire. This data was then fed back to the AI to create an image and then fed back to the dynamic three-dimensional map. The dynamic map in the command room was changing, and the color of the life signal changed to indicate the strength of the enemy. The effect was clear at a glance. Just as expected, although the 3 empires had mobilized 1 million elite soldiers, only 1/3 of them could be considered top-notch trump cards. Which was around 300,000, the arrangement of this army was very interesting. There was a large light dot in the center with a dark dot in the middle, just like a long snake. Although it was a good ambush, it couldn't escape Miracle City's research. Smart Brain made a large number of marks on the dynamic map. Sir City Lord, we've analyzed the enemy's movements and strength distribution over the past 6 hours, analyzing the positions of the various command centers. An army of over 1 million was mainly composed of air units. If there wasn't a unified command, there was no way to transmit orders, and the entire army wouldn't be able to move for long, not being able to fight at all. So, to deal with this kind of army, if they could destroy the various command centers, it would cause a large disturbance to the entire army. In this kind of situation, their battle strength would definitely be high. Meng Qingwu quickly deployed the Alliance army. 0 suddenly said, Sir Vice City Lord, our army is still lacking a frontline commander. Meng Qingwu had already thought of this problem. Although Miracle City's army could be commanded from afar or by Smart Brain, there was not only Miracle City's direct army, there was also the Forest Alliance's allied army and the 6 Empires' army. The frontline commander had to coordinate these different armies. Who should she send as the commander? Chu Tian came into the command hall at this time. Young miss, there's no need to worry, I'll be the commander. Stop messing around. Meng Qingwu glared at him. If you run to the front lines to fight, who will Ying marry? Isn't there still time? Chu Tian heroically said, I'll destroy the 3 Empires' army and then go to West Sea City to get married. There's no conflict between the two. Chu Tian's words were very easy to say. It gave people the illusion that destroying the Big Dry Empire's army was as easy as swatting a group of flies. Meng Qingwu felt a headache coming on. Are you sure? Chu Tian nodded. Young miss can be assured, there won't be any problems. Meng Qingwu gave a sigh. She indeed couldn't find a suitable person right now. Other than Chu Tian, who else had the qualifications to represent Miracle City in coordinating the various armies? Although Meng Qingwu had the corresponding prestige, Meng Qingwu's battle strength was too weak. She couldn't take on the front lines. Prepare the deep space weapons. We'll destroy the enemy's command system. When Meng Qingwu was preparing the various weapons, Chu Tian had already left Miracle City. He led Miracle City's army and left the Forest of Chaos as quickly as possible, heading to where the Big Dry Empire's reinforcements would pass to set up an ambush. Chu Tian thought that just these troops weren't enough, so he first set up a space warehouse near the battlefield. He used the space warehouse to transport large amounts of equipment from Miracle City, including guided missile carriages, source energy cannons, anti-air laser cannons, and various heavy weapons. At this time, Meng Qingwu's voice sounded in Chu Tian's ears through the communication device. Pay attention, the enemy's main force is less than 300 miles away. Miracle City's deep space weapons have been prepared, they will be activated now. Understood. We'll show them something good this time. Chu Tian's lips curled into a faint smile as he gently raised his hand. Have the guided missile unit prepare. Let's cooperate with the deep space weapons and give these fellows a large gift. The 30 guided missile carriages on the mountain slowly raised their launchers and several hundred missiles were activated at the same time, aiming straight ahead. Fire! The 30 guided missile carriages released energy and several hundred missiles created sparks in the air. They shot into the sky from the missile carriages and turned into dots of light in the blink of an eye. From this moment on, the battle officially began. Chapter 633. After the Battle of Miracle City, the Big Dry Empire and the Forest Alliance formed an irreconcilable grudge. One was an empire, one was an overlord. The Big Dry Empire couldn't endure this kind of shame, it was the same even if they were asking for it. In the past 10 years, even if the Big Dry Empire had fought with the other empire-level powers on the continent, they had never lost as miserably as Miracle City. The Forest Alliance still couldn't become a recognized empire-level power on the continent, so because of their defeat in this battle, the Big Dry Empire had lost all their face. If it was a normal kingdom, this loss of face wouldn't matter, at most they would lose a bit of face. But for an empire like the Big Dry Empire, this loss of face wasn't just a problem of the emperor's face, it was related to the empire's prestige and influence. The empire's prestige was related to their benefits. Any empire-level power on the continent had over 100 small and medium subsidiary powers. The Big Dry Empire had 130 subsidiary powers, several warring kingdoms, several large and small kingdoms, and several large and small sections. What did they rely on to manage all these powers? Even if the Big Dry Empire's army was strong, they couldn't manage all these places at once. These subsidiary powers obediently paid tribute to the Big Dry Empire every year mainly because they were afraid of the empire's prestige. It was the empire's influence that restricted them, making them not dare neglect the Big Dry Empire at all. Therefore, the stronger the empire, the more loyal the subsidiary powers were and the more they paid tribute. An empire's face was directly linked to their benefits. Miracle City's battle. The Big Dry Empire had suffered heavy losses and lost all their face. Not only were they ridiculed by the other empire-level powers, some subsidiary powers were also affected. They thought that the Big Dry Empire was weak and wasn't worth trying to please, so their tribute would be greatly reduced in the end. The Big Dry Empire's competitors would even take this chance to make some of the opportunists change sides. Miracle City's defeat this time would have a long-lasting effect on the Big Dry Empire, therefore it was urgent to save their face. Next, Miracle City itself was becoming a serious threat. If they didn't personally see it, it would be hard to imagine that such a strange flower would appear on the continent. Miracle Commerce had only been established for 3 years, but it was a road that couldn't be completed in 300 years. Miracle Commerce's way of rising was very special. They didn't recruit soldiers, buy horses, fight, or expand their borders, but they had this kind of large effect. Although Miracle City was pushing aside the Big Dry Empire, the Big Dry Empire had been paying attention to Miracle City, so they knew what they had been doing recently. After the summit, Miracle City was getting closer to the 6 empire-level powers, which made the Big Dry Empire feel very uneasy. The rise of an empire-level power in the Forest of Chaos was only a matter of time. The most terrifying thing was not that there would be an empire power on the continent, rather it was that the Forest of Chaos had a very special position on the continent. It could become a link to other powers, finally forming a special alliance across the entire continent. If Miracle City really succeeded, the Big Dry Empire would find it hard to take a single step forward and there would even be the danger of being swallowed. It was time to break his spirit. They had to deal a heavy blow to Miracle City. The Great Qian Empire had paid a high price to invite the two factions to form an army of 1,000,000 soldiers. Among them, there were close to 700,000 regular soldiers and about 350,000 elite soldiers. The Great Qian Empire had sent 150,000 of them. This army's strength was enough to fight an empire. The Big Dry Emperor personally leading the army showed his determination to win. Miracle City's defenses in the Forest of Chaos weren't bad, but the Big Dry Emperor didn't believe West Sea City had this kind of defense. As long as they destroyed the Forest Alliance's West Sea City, it would be equivalent to cutting off the Forest Alliance's influence in the Western Sea. This would deal a heavy blow to the Forest Alliance and allow the Big Dry Empire to take back several Western Sea subsidiary powers. The Big Dry Empire's influence would expand to the Western Sea and they could station a large number of troops in West Sea City as a springboard, constantly eroding the Forest of Chaos. This way, they could slowly defeat Miracle City. Other than strategic considerations, Miracle City's city lord Chu Tian had chosen West Sea City to hold his wedding and the Miracle Continent would open on this day. The Big Dry Emperor chose Miracle City's most important day to deal a heavy blow to the Forest of Chaos. Your Majesty, the Big Dry Emperor. There are large flying objects in front of us. They are very fast, they should be Miracle City's guided missiles. When the Big Dry Emperor was commanding in the center, the messengers communicated with each other with their divine senses, quickly reporting the frontline situation to the Big Dry Emperor. Communication in this era wasn't very developed and it was normal for such a large-scale army to be separated by several dozen miles. It would be too slow to send orders with their mouths and it would be easy for the flags to be messed up. Therefore, the most advanced method of communication was divine sense. How many are there? There are around several hundred. Only several hundred. The Big Dry Emperor revealed a disdainful smile when he heard this. It seemed like Miracle City had already prepared a defensive line. They were trying to stop the Big Dry Empire's army from entering the Forest Alliance's territory, preventing Miracle City's most important day from being destroyed. The Big Dry Emperor wasn't worried about this at all, rather he fell into their trap. If Miracle City used the city as a defensive point, it would be a bit difficult for the army to fight. If they fought in the wilderness, no matter how strong Miracle City's army was, they wouldn't be able to stop this army. Even a true empire wouldn't be able to stop the Big Dry Empire's army, not to mention that Miracle City hadn't reached the standard of an empire, otherwise they wouldn't have cooperated with the 6 empires and made all kinds of concessions. Send down the order. The Big Dry Emperor didn't even think before saying, open the frontline army's barrier, the frontline army will advance and directly attack the Forest Alliance. The Big Dry Empire had been collecting information on Miracle City for research. Although there were many things about Miracle City that the Big Dry Empire didn't understand, at least they wouldn't be completely blind like before. Regarding the guided missiles, the source energy cannons, and the laser cannons, the Big Dry Empire had analyzed them and researched defensive measures. For example, Miracle City had the wall breaker missiles. According to the Big Dry Empire's records, this kind of missile had appeared in the battle between the Forest Alliance and the Eagle Burial Kingdom. This kind of missile was specially used to counter barriers and could destroy large-scale barriers, therefore it was very dangerous in a battle between two armies. The Big Dry Empire divided their armies into front, middle, back, left, and right in order to avoid suffering losses. Each army had their own large-scale barrier and each barrier had many layers, effectively blocking the effects of the wall-breaker missiles. Other than that, the Big Dry Empire knew that Miracle City had things like airships. This time the Big Dry Empire sent out an elite army to defend the airships. They mainly appeared at the altitude of the airships and as long as they found a target, they would immediately destroy it. They wouldn't give them a chance to drop bombs or cannons. It was just several hundred guided missiles. This didn't count for anything to the Big Dry Empire's army. This weak attack meant that the Forest Alliance's preparations were rushed, perhaps the front lines wouldn't be that strong. Miracle City used high-tech weapons as their main fighting force, but they were lacking in foundation. They didn't have strong soldiers or strong experts, therefore when fighting Miracle City, they couldn't drag it out. They had to get close as soon as possible, this way they could minimize their losses. When the big dry emperor had this thought, there was suddenly an ear-piercing whistle. A gigantic beam of light pierced through the heavens, shooting down from the distant skies like a sword of judgment. It fiercely stabbed into the formation, striking very precisely at the central command center where the Qian Emperor was located. Wherever it passed, it pierced through dozens of airborne cavalry or minor injuries. 2 messengers were also killed in a situation where they were caught off guard. What is going on? Where did this attack come from? The big dry emperor angrily questioned. The army was clearly prepared to defend themselves, but now they were attacked from the sky without any warning. This filled him with shock and anger. As soon as his voice fell, another giant beam of light fell down. This attack hit the command center where the front lines and instantly caused quite a bit of casualties and chaos. The third beam of light followed right after. This attack hit the command center where the front lines and the rear armies were connected. These attacks were all very accurate and the intent was very clear. It was clearly to disturb the Big Dry Empire's command center. The Big Dry Emperor finally couldn't hold back as he ordered, "Open the barrier." Before this order was sent out, the Big Dry Empire's army was scared silly by what happened next. There were tens of thousands of small dots in the sky, and when they looked carefully, how were these small dots? They were all missiles that flew at over 10 times the speed of sound. Why are there so many? Where did they come from? The Big Dry Empire's army was all stunned. This kind of large-scale attack would definitely have a destructive effect on the army. The various armies didn't need orders to open the barrier, and at this time, the rain of missiles kept falling down, almost covering the center of the Big Dry Emperor's army. The instant explosion caused large casualties to the normal armies, and even the peak armies suffered quite a bit of damage. The most important thing was that under this terrifying attack, the center army had been completely messed up, and now there was a problem with the orders. Beams of light fell down one after another. Every strike hit the command center at the right time. Although the few rounds of attacks did not cause any destructive impact on the army of the Great Qian Empire, they had completely messed up the army of 1,000,000 soldiers. Orders could not be transmitted, and the battlefield intelligence was transmitted incorrectly. As a result, the originally strict and orderly army was thrown into chaos. The entire army of 1,000,000 soldiers seemed to be falling apart. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.